at some point, you indicated, Mr. Albert, at another proceeding, under oath, in relation to a conversation that you had with Brian Higgins about your phone. Quote, I don't recall saying I was going to get rid of my personal phone to Brian Higgins. I may have said that, you know, there's personal stuff on my phone. But I don't recall saying that to him, but I don't know. We had multiple conversations about things. You remember saying that under oath at another hearing?
Yes.
You literally admitted at that hearing there's personal private data on that phone. Hence, you got rid of it, right?
No.
You certainly wouldn't allow some kid at the AT&T store to have your personal private data. You're a cop.
No, I assume he doesn't have it
Why would you assume that?
because he took the phone and has it.
And what do you think happens to the data on the phone, sir? Let's just use common sense. What do you honestly think happens to the data on the phone when you turn it in and upgrade your phone?
I'm sure that the data is not there anymore. I'm sure.
It's destroyed, sir, correct?
I don't know that for a fact. I know that some things are transferred back to the new phone.
You just said, you know, the data is not there.
Some data, I guess, isn't. Yes.
No, that's all I have.
All right, Mr. Lally, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, I'm going to take a short recess. I want to let this witness, if he chooses to have a few minutes.
Mr. Albert, you were notified by the Commonwealth that on September 23rd, 2022, a judge specifically ordered you to preserve that phone and all its data, the phone ending in 0888. Is that right?
Yeah. At what time are you asking me that I was notified?
That day or the next?
On the 23rd?
On the 23rd or the 24th of September?
No.
Isn't it true that you were provided a letter by the Commonwealth that stated the following? Your Honor, if I may read this.
Yes, there's no objection.
Thank you. Quote, you are hereby notified that the defense in the case of Commonwealth versus Karen Reed, Norfolk Superior Court criminal case number 22-117 has filed a motion pursuant to Mass R Crim P 17 for the production of any cell phones that you used between January 28, 2022 and February 28, 2022, and or any data associated with those cell phones. The hearing on Ms. Reed's motion will be held on October 3rd, 2022 at 2 p.m. in courtroom 1 of the Norfolk Superior Court. You may be heard on the motion at that time. You are hereby placed on notice that these cell phones are the subject of pending litigation, and you must not alter, delete, destroy, or in any way manipulate any of the electronic data associated with the cell phone at issue. You received, end quote, you received that notice on either the 23rd or the 24th. Is that right?
I did not.
Honor, I would pose a stipulation. I spoke with counsel off the record, if I may.
Where's the cell phone?
You both have a stipulation
Where's
that
the
I
cell
haven't seen.
phone?
We just determined I'm happy to approach it.
Why don't we approach quickly?
Today was glorious. It really was. Look at these two. What are they thinking?
It was just stipulated that on the 23rd or 24th, you were then sent a notice to preserve the phone. And your testimony is on the 22nd, the day before this all happened, you upgraded your phone and got rid of it in total.
Dirty
right?
deleted
I
it.
upgraded my phone.
Upgraded it. He
On and around the
upgraded it.
22nd.
Yeah,
Yes.
upgraded it.
knew
Aren't you a
that
smart guy?
all
You
of the-
upgraded it. Oh man, today was friggin' glorious. It just gets better and better. I can't even believe they're trying Karen Reed. Like, what is going on, dudes? Every day your witnesses look so friggin' shady. There's so much to talk about. I don't like to make predictions. I haven't made any predictions really about any of this stuff. But something that we've talked about on the show is will this actually go to a jury verdict? Will it even get to a point where the prosecution just says we're withdrawing charges? We're ending this case. Will we even get there? I'm hearing some crazy rumors and just looking into things. I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the week if it's not over. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but geez, I mean, the judge is still holding the defense back. And every day it's this shit. Look at this guy today. Jackson just eating him alive. And I just jumped up here early because I wanted to mention a few things and play a little video because we got the Celtics on and we got attorney Mark Bederow. He's going to be coming up as soon as the Celtics are over. I think he's here actually now, just popped up in the green room. We're going to bring him up in a second. But today was just something else. I mean, you're talking about incidental phone calls from the bed, butt dials. Chloe bites, but she doesn't bark, which is really like I've never met a dog. If a dog bites, they bark. They always if they it's a question if you know, usually if they bark, do they bite? A lot of times a dog will just bark and not bite, which is good. Better than barking and biting, which Chloe, I guarantee you, did both. So much happened today. Brian Albert, Caitlyn Albert. Tomorrow's going to be the cross-examination. We've got attorney Bederow here. Let's bring him out. Mazza Media was there today, too. So we're going to be excited to talk to him tonight about his free Karen Reed experience today at court and stuff happened with Grant and Jessica. And let's bring up the attorney because I know he just watched everything, too. Attorney Mark Bederow, what's up?
How are you? Long day.
Yeah, long day. We're live right now. Started early because there's so much interest on this. What do you think about what you saw today?
I think Brian Albert is a disaster. And as I thought it would be, not because there was going to be Perry Mason moments, but because it was slicing and dicing and death by 1,000 cuts. He told so many different stories about so many different things, which I think the word I would use or words are strained credulity. They just don't make sense. And there are so many of these examples. Some of them involve very inconsistent testimony, which I think are inexplicable. Some of them involve facts which just are on their face absurd. I mean, the butt dialing and all of that makes just completely no sense. The preservation letter, which he apparently never received. I mean, think about that for a minute. A guy gets a letter from the government saying you need to preserve your phone. And this guy says, not only did I never get it, but the day before I, switched out my phone. I just think that's, I don't think anyone's going to believe that. And on smaller details too. But again, if you lie about the small stuff, what does that mean about the big stuff, about whether he knew Karen Reed? That story seemed to evolve depending on whether he was testifying at trial or testifying in the first grand jury or the second grand jury. I think his idea that he, this is an experienced, not unintelligent guy. I mean, he may be a meathead, but he presents as a reasonably intelligent. I mean, his demeanor is actually very good as a witness. But, when he said in the beginning, he didn't know the difference between speaking with Lally versus prepping. I mean, you could go on and on. It's just too many coincidences, deleting Colin from the interviews, changing Caitlyn's time. There are just so many examples with this guy. And I don't think he's believable. And I think anybody who's paying attention will see that, particularly the stuff at the end. I mean, the stuff with the phone makes no sense unless he's like suggesting his ass opened up the phone while he was, in an intimate relationship with his wife at 2:30 in the morning. I mean, who's believing that?
Nobody, especially married people.
Nobody's believing that. And by the way, does a 250-pound guy asleep with his reading glasses in the middle of his bed, those things would be crushed. He'd be, there's no chance. None of it makes any sense. And I think also the science of it, if you butt dial, you not only do you have to like turn the phone on, but if you're butt dialing and the other person doesn't pick up, I'm not a cell phone expert, but I've been around long enough to know that most likely that call, if it connects, will go on and on and on and go for upwards of a couple of minutes, and will go to voicemail and just keep going until after 2 or 3 minutes or whatever the time is. So I think he was terrible, and the jury will be left, when the lawyer sums up, unable to square the question which will be asked, which is, if this guy is honest to God, no dirty hands in this at all, what about the phone calls that with him and Higgins? What about him saying he doesn't know Karen Reed? What about getting cute with his language in terms of prepping with Lally? What about all of this stuff? What about the dog who he says in his room, but then might have been in the closet?
Yeah.
But he said 20 minutes earlier that the dog was barking because there were people there, but not when all this other stuff was going on. The preservation letter to me is just absolutely.
I know. This is crazy. On
So-
September 22nd, he got rid of his phone. September 23rd was the preservation letter.
Did you notice also how he said it could not have been the 24th or 25th? I mean, it had to be before he got the letter, which he never got. And then he later learned that Higgins also, torpedoed his phone. He wouldn't answer like stupid questions about whether they were wrestling or boxing or whatever.
Or it wasn't hand-to-hand combat training. It was defense techniques.
He was not good. Really, really not good. And again, not to be too repetitive, but if he has nothing to do with anything, why all these weird facts that he can't recall, or he's inconsistent, or just don't make sense?
Crazy today, I thought. It was just riveting to watch. And tomorrow, Caitlyn Albert. We got Mazza Media. What are your thoughts? You were there today. What do you got for us?
I was there. I have entered the buffer zone and exited the buffer zone without any criminal offenses today, so I was happy about that. It was a very awesome group of people. It was awesome meeting everyone in person for the first time ever. People, what's funny is about 6 or 7 people recognized me just off my voice alone. I had one woman just walk by and turn around and walk by and go, "Are you Mazza Media by any chance?" I said, yeah. Everyone's like, "I recognize your voice." I'm like, "I don't remember my voice was that distinct."
It's a very nice radio voice.
Yeah.
It's very.
I wondered about if Grant noticed your voice when he walked by.
He didn't. He did not at all. I thought, I didn't realize I made Alan Jackson laugh so hard today when they were coming back from lunch. So Grant was filming, and when he came back from lunch, he had this carton, and it had like a iced coffee and 2 Prime Energy drinks, a giant cookie, and maybe another cookie in this thing. So he's holding it in his left hand. And I'm lining up with a few other people, like Paul, who was in the comments. "What's up, Paul? Great to meet you." And today, Paul's the man. And I'm sitting there, and I'm just looking at Grant doing what he's doing. He's got these headphones on. He's juggling this thing. He's filming with his right hand with the camera. And I'm reading Suzanne's comment and laughing here. Yeah. And I'm looking at him
I need
juggling
some keys. I need some keys too, right?
Yeah. I'm
Where are
like,
my
is this guy seriously holding this stuff while he's filming here? So I just come out with the comment and go, "Grant, are you really holding all this stuff while you're filming right now?" So about a split second after I make that remark, I look to my right and I see Alan Jackson looking at me. And Alan Jackson is bursting out laughing. You can just see him, like his face just like he's serious, and all of a sudden he just lights up with this huge smile, and he's just laughing, looking at me, laughing like, "This guy's unbelievable." And I even saw Karen laughing. I don't know if Karen was laughing at my joke, perhaps, or if it was because she was happy others were cheering. I don't know what, but I was just laughing. I was watching the video back tonight. I was just almost crying with laughter when Alan Jackson looks at me and just starts laughing, because it was just such a. I sent you the picture too, by the way, but no, he didn't know who I was at all. And I had commented to him after that, and that was about all the interaction that we had today. But he didn't give me any issues. I don't really start anything with people unless they start with me first, so I don't really go around like confronting people. But I can tell you one thing today, that there was a member of the Free Karen Reed movement that did have a lengthy conversation with Grant today and put him in check for the behaviors that he displayed last night, as well as his extremely outrageous and disturbing behavior towards Jess Machado early this morning, which was extremely unacceptable and just absolutely sickening to watch. I know I shared the video, but I almost feel guilty about doing that, but it is necessary to be seen because people just need to know, like, this behavior is just not acceptable. Jess is a wonderful woman. I met her today. Absolutely the nicest woman in the world, extremely intelligent, was so gracious when she met me. And some were concerned that she was going to walk by herself. So Grant left early, so he wasn't there. He actually walked up to a few of us and said he was leaving around, I don't know, like 2 o'clock or something. So when Jess left, there was no concern about her safety because he was gone. So there's nothing to worry about. So, and I walked with her for a little bit and we talked and chatted real quick. So that was good. But yeah, it was just what he did this morning was absolutely outrageous. And that's the first thing I woke up to this morning. And I saw that on my stream, on my feed, and I'm just like, this guy can't be doing this kind of stuff. And the individual that confronted him this afternoon, at length, I should stress, really drove it home to him. Like, look, stop fighting over chairs. It's not a big deal over the chairs. Now there is going to be a change to the media line thing, so they've changed it a little bit, so it won't be this circus anymore that we've seen. So I don't know if they're going to switch to a lottery or something, but there was changes discussed today. That was happening, and
I
I don't.
heard they're just removing the chairs, which is
Yeah,
even worse. I
yeah,
mean, now they're
yeah.
going to make people. I mean, Jess expressed concerns over safety, over sleeping overnight. This is ridiculous to make
Yeah,
people
it's
sleep
yeah.
crazy.
in line.
The
Like people
answer,
have disabilities, safety issues. Go
the
ahead.
He
answer
was,
is remove Grant.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was fighting
That-
over this. I mean, I felt like I was looking at Sherry O'Terry on Saturday Night Live when she used to play that porch lady character, and she used to yell at all the neighborhood kids back about 24 years. That kind of. I mean, he was literally on the courthouse steps last night playing musical chairs with the chairs, and he looked like some dude in the condo community that was quarreling with his neighbor over a property line between condo C and condo D. I mean, it was so trivial what he was arguing. It's just like, why don't you just chill out, dude? And that's what was confronted to him today,
Mm.
was, why are you so confrontational about this? Does it matter if your chair is first? Does it matter if your chair is third? And that was what was presented to him in the argument. I stood by and overwatched that whole thing go down. I stood there because if I needed to step in and say something, I was going to. But the individual was holding a conversation with him about it, and they were conversing very effectively, I should say. And I was shocked that Grant was actually somewhat receptive to it, even though he kept trying to make his own arguments. But I thought that the conversation went down smoothly and my intervention was not necessary. But if I had to intervene and say something, I was just going to say, look, Grant, you got to knock it off, dude. You can't be treated, it's one thing if you confront a man, if you want to confront me or Turtle Boy or any man, okay. But when you start confronting women about that, it's just not, first of all, you're no man. I mean, we've seen two men now confront women in the past week, Karen being one of them, by a police officer. And this is just absolutely unacceptable. And I will never, while I'm in person, ever tolerate seeing that kind of behavior go down. And like I said, when I ran into Jess on the way out of court, when she ran into me on her way out of court today, if he had still been around, I would have definitely volunteered to escort her to her vehicle, because I was not going to allow
Definitely.
that to
Definitely.
happen. I'm just not going to let her be in a vulnerable position. And, I'm extremely protective. I'm someone with a mother and several sisters. And, I've always protected the women in my family. And, I would have done the same for Jess without a second's hesitation. And that goes for any other woman in this movement. I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm not going to stand for that. And any man that does that is no man at all. And you're absolutely classless. And for the individual that bumped in and slightly shoved Karen last week, again, just absolutely classless. And it's not going to be tolerated. But like I said, I felt that individual made a good argument to him today, put him in check, and did a great job doing it. So I'm glad that was done.
It seems like they're melting down. I mean, if you look at
Yeah.
that police officer that did that, Ken Dougal, allegedly, I mean, we have one person saying it, Nick Rocco, but what the proof is in the pudding, the guy hasn't shown up in court again. So
Yeah.
there seems to be some truth to that. And I'm not doubting Nick Rocco at all. It just usually in journalism, you want a couple sources, but the guy's not there anymore. So something seems to have gone down there with the police officer and Karen Reed and Grant. His behavior is just, it becomes more unhinged by the day. I think it's
Yeah.
because they see what's going on in court.
Yeah. What's so crazy though about his personality is that sometimes he's like this extremely calm guy. Like he'll walk around,
Yep.
he'll joke around,
He's
and then
Jekyll
all
and
of a
Hyde.
sudden, yeah, something will just set him off,
It's probably
and
man.
it will be the most trivial thing, and he'll just be in this flaming argument, and it's just like crazy, you know?
I've seen it. I mean, I didn't see his side, this side that we're seeing right now for a long time. I actually knew the guy
Yeah.
for a while, and he was so sweet and nice. And I don't know if it was all a front the whole time. I think it was, but there's something, something's not right there.
Yeah.
And I suggest people try to stay away from him. I mean, that's
Yeah.
my thing.
Right. I couldn't help but make fun of him for having those drinks in his hand while he was filming today. And I noticed, like I said, Alan Jackson got a laugh out of that. I mean, he was done. He looked at me and I'm like, all of a sudden I realized Alan Jackson's looking right at me, laughing his ass off. I'm like, it was just funny. It was just so funny. But I'm like, dude, are you really filming with drinks in your hand like this? I'm like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Like, bro, just stop.
Yeah. So what did you think? Did you get to see any of the video today to Mazda Media from
Very,
court?
very little. So very little. I was I saw we had a laptop set up for a bit, and then occasionally I'd watch it on my phone. I spent a big part of the day really mingling with a lot of individuals that I wanted to meet. I saw bits and pieces throughout the day, or heard bits and pieces throughout the day. But I was all the parts I saw, and I saw the butt dialing part was we were all laughing. Like it was probably like 20, 30 of us outside. We were all laughing in the parking lot just outside the church on the sidewalk outside. We were all laughing. It was, I butt dialed. I'm like, go ahead and say it. You butt dialed. And it just, his way of crafting it and explaining it just shows you how outrageous the whole thing is. We know that you made the calls. You're not going to BS anybody. You did not butt dial. And Alan Jackson broke it right down. Do you have like a 4 or 6 digit passcode? Do you have like fingerprint identification, facial recognition? And this guy's trying to tell us, oh yeah, we butt dialed, and then he called me back, and it's, come on, it's just not believable. And it's what you're seeing is you're seeing people that don't have the truth on their side, and they're trying to bend and mold a story to favor them as innocent, and it just doesn't make sense. It's ridiculous. And we got that vibe again as a group, and this is the first time I've had an opportunity to watch it with several members of this movement, and you just see like the same reactions out of everybody organically. Everyone just like rolling their eyes, like, did he really just say that? No one believes you. They just, it's so obvious. And this has been said all weekend long. And it was said again today by many outside today that, look, you guys are just making this up as you go along because you don't have the facts. And it's just an absolute charade to watch this go on. And these people try to, make any case about what's happening. It's like, no, look, you guys, you were sleeping. You told, when I was driving in, I was listening to the part where he was in the corner left bedroom, and we go back to the German Shepherd Chloe. There's no way. I was at my parents' yesterday for Mother's Day. My sister was there first with her dog. As soon as I opened that door, that dog was barking up a storm from upstairs. And as soon as I got upstairs, the dog's like, "Oh, it's you. How you doing, Mark?" But that's not a dog that's a German Shepherd. That's not a dog that's police trained. That's just your typical average American dog that's reacting. How is that dog that's in the upper left corner bedroom in the front of the house, not the back of the house? And Alan Jackson got him to testify to that. How is that dog not reacting to what's going outside? I don't want to hear this about, oh, well, I slept through because I'm used to sirens.
No way.
Your
That dog's
dog is
reacting.
going nuclear.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
We all know it. Anyone who owns a dog, especially a problem dog, they're going nuts. They're gonna wake you up. I believe that definitely. At the end of today, Caitlyn Albert's on the stand. She's starting to get crossed about acquaintances and friends, and starting to get good. And then they took a break, and then they came back without the jury, and they were arguing about tomorrow. Seems like what we've been talking about, what the attorney Mark Bederow has been talking about is we don't need to bring Katie back. It's Katie comes into play with Caitlyn Albert and the cross. And it seems like about those photos, do you think the judge is going to let those photos be shown tomorrow and question Caitlyn Albert on all the Katie McLaughlin stuff?
I don't know how she can't. I mean, you have a series of photographs that show them, celebrating, partying over the years. And the one they were talking about today, which clearly is the most relevant, it's recent, before the murder. And if the best argument that the DA has is, well, how do we authenticate it? Because people can tamper with things on social media. I mean, come on. The answer is you stick the photo, even if it's out of the place of the jury, you stick it in Caitlyn's face. And if she says this photo is tampered or it's not real, I mean, give me a break. I don't even think she's going to do that. But you have to let them do this, because she came in today. I was a little surprised. I thought she would actually try to be a little more honest about all of this.
Right? She blew it. I think she blew it right with the jury.
And it was totally contrived with the same nonsense about what an acquaintance is, or how she's a girl I go to high school with and I wouldn't consider her this and that. And then she says, I haven't really been following any of the trial testimony. But man, she came armed to battle with, making sure that Katie's not my friend. Again,
Yeah.
Too much protest.
Especially like they show the group photos, and always in the group photos, they're right next to each other. They're hugging each other. They're touching each other. It's like, it would be one thing if they were just in group photos in opposite ends of the, spectrum with 10 people, but there'll be 10 people and they'll be right next to each other.
It has to come in, because Katie's credibility is a critical issue in the case in light of her testimony, in terms of her substantive testimony, and the defense argument that she somehow has a motive to favor one side or the other. And if Caitlyn denies it or says that's not me in the photos, the jury can assess that as well. But I don't know how you could possibly deprive the defense of the opportunity to attempt further impeachment of Katie through Caitlyn, and in the same token, for an added bonus, try to impeach Caitlyn to the extent, she testified that they literally would have gone 5 feet from John O'Keefe's body at the end there and saw nothing or something like that, if I have that right.
Right.
So I think I don't know how she could not allow that in. And this whole nonsense about authenticating, come on, give me a break.
Can't you just ask Caitlyn Albert?
Yes.
Your pictures. I mean, that's authentication.
I mean, I think the lawyer made the right argument at the end, which is it's a shower. I mean, she's going to remember it, and she's going to identify all the people in the picture and remember that which one of these girls, there's a pregnant girl or close to pregnant, whatever it is, in the middle. Who's that? Did she have a baby around that time? Were you at the shower? This is nonsense. This is Lally once again flailing around. It'll come in. It has to.
I love how they're already tying it in with the acquaintances, and they're really driving it home. Jackson, Yannetti, Little have been phenomenal.
Yeah, well, they have to. I mean, it's just stupid what these witnesses have been saying, and it's stupid the way they're presenting the case, and it's stupid the order of witnesses that they're calling, and it's profoundly stupid with a capital S that he's spending more time having people testify, I don't know anything and nothing happened. And you could do this without the defendant sitting at the table. I mean,
it's crazy. This is just
peak Lally. This is peak Lally. This is really bad. I mean, it's going on days of no evidence.
No evidence against Karen Reed.
None.
Except the only thing we got was the first few days with the Katie testimonies and the EMTs. That's it. They're saying that's it.
I'm at the point where I don't even know why he's calling half of these Alberts, because if he doesn't and he makes the defense call them, because presumably they have nothing really to add to his case that's that important. And if he makes the defense call them, then the defense can't cross-examine them. They have to direct them.
Exactly.
Huge, huge difference. you can't get in somebody's grill on direct, and he's just throwing everyone up there, and it's getting worse and worse, and you haven't even heard from the two worst ones yet.
There's a list that's been leaked of who the prosecution is supposed to call, and it's been kind of accurate. A couple names kind of stick out that should be next or should have already been called that haven't been called yet.
Who's next on the list?
Tristan is an obvious choice. He's one of the names. Tristan Morris, the boyfriend of Caitlyn Albert, who had an incident with Turtle Boy.
I saw him walking out of court.
He's the one who, was supposed to be working and couldn't be there, but came back to pick her up, which is
that
weird.
didn't make any sense.
Yeah, so he may be on the stand.
Didn't make any
and the other one is Higgins. Higgins seems to and if you look at that list, it looked like he should have already testified. So you wonder if maybe he's holding out. Before we even talk about them, what about today? Brian Albert brought in a lawyer.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? Does that happen a lot? Like a witness brings in their own lawyer to.
Well, I mean, if you're worried that there's an area where you could be exposed what that tells me is that he was at least on the precipice and considering at one point, putting up the white flag and
pleading the fifth.
That's right.
That's what it felt like. It felt like, is this guy going to plead the fifth right now?
There's no other reason to have a lawyer for a witness in court and considering consulting other than to discuss whether, we're really going to go down the path. So, and he wasn't bashful about, saying that he had a lawyer and that his lawyer was with him when he met the DA way back when. I mean, everything about him looks terrible, and the jury sees it all. And I just think that he and the rest of them, he discredit when he acts like this and gives this fakakta testimony. They all look terrible. His wife it makes the wife look worse. It makes the brothers look worse. It looks like they're all full of shit about everything, and they're just covering each other's rear ends. And they're all deleting phone calls or burning phones. And again, they're just setting it up perfectly for the defense in the summation to say who's acting like guilty people here and who's acting like a normal person. And they just continue to do it. He keeps leading with his chin, and that's what he is. He's going to keep doing it. And every day it gets more and more obvious to me that there's never going to be a conviction in this case, notwithstanding what, a lot of the online yahoos are yelling, and they've started coming after me as some kind of shill. And
everybody is.
Whatever. I don't care. But they're crazy. They're so angry about what's happening. I don't know why. But the reality is there's just no evidence over 2 weeks in that they've offered at all. Yeah. Really.
On the positive end, I heard that we got some love on Melanie Little's show for all three of us.
Oh,
She's
nice.
been watching. She shouted out Mark, Mark, and as well as myself. That's what I heard. I haven't listened to it yet because I'm so busy, but I'm hearing good things. I love Melanie Little, so that's huge. And all of our numbers are going through the roof. Turtle Boys, Melanie Little, Tom CPU, what's his name? Sean McDonough, our show, like every show that's been covering this the right way lately. If you look at the numbers, they're just jumping every friggin' night. Every time I look at them, they're up again. So it's very good. I think we're winning. I think it's pretty obvious we're winning this in court and in public opinion. And just
let me share a story. I think this would be great to share. So I had lunch today, and I was I'll give a shout out to Rita. Me and Rita and a few others were having lunch today at a local establishment, and couldn't believe I had lunch with Rita. And Rita said back to me, "I can't believe I had lunch with Mazda Media," which was hilarious. So a few of us all had lunch together, and this man, we were watching actually on my phone. I had my phone going, and we were watching the cross-examination of Brian, and this man walked by. And he was curious, and he said, "Are you guys watching the case?" And we said, "Yes, we are." Then he said, "Okay, well, nice to meet you." He comes back about 5 minutes later. He goes, "Hey," he just started asking more questions about the case. He goes, my wife," he says, "my wife is saying that this woman's been framed and it was a cover-up and this guy was killed. Is that true?" And we actually took the time to break it down, especially Rita. I'll give a shout out to Rita, who's amazing, by the way. It was awesome meeting Rita, who basically shared with the man that, look, yes, this is what happened. You should definitely follow this case. Your wife and what she believes about this and what she's saying is absolutely accurate. And this was just like this guy, for me and probably for everyone else that was enjoying lunch today, probably you had the same reaction. This guy is an example of the next wave of people that are starting to get awoken to what's going on here.
Oh, we're
And
seeing them. I mean,
yeah,
they're everywhere. I mean, we're getting 1,000 people overnight. It's just
Well,
crazy.
I think it's also just common sense that, you know, even if you want to assume someone's guilty or not, or you're watching it with an honest eye, you're 2 weeks into this and you're watching it, and they're not presenting affirmative evidence geared towards establishing the defendant's guilt. They're presenting defensive evidence to show that others aren't, which I can understand at some point they feel they need to do, but they seem a lot more obsessed with that than doing this the right way. And again, if they were going to try the guilty case first, then, you know, you would have had Proctor, McCabe, and all these other people who would have set the stage for building the case. And instead, they're not doing it. And I think people see that. I mean, they don't, like you said the other day, where's the beef, to get all 1980s old? But it's true. I mean, there's no there. This is like trial in a vacuum. There's nothing happening from the prosecution standpoint. It's quite pathetic. I mean, it really is. Oh, you're silenced again. You did it again.
I said I love the 80s and 90s here. I haven't done that in a while. It's been like 1 or 2 shows, but we always love the 80s and 90s. Just in the 70s. 70s are funny. But yeah, I mean, there's so much going on at this, just day after day after day. What do you think's going to come up tomorrow with Caitlyn Albert? I think the obvious. We already know Katie McLaughlin, but what else? What are they going to go after her about tomorrow?
Well, I think when she left, I mean, the timing of when she left is an interesting thing, because number one, if you buy into the defense theory, then it means she was there, right? Or even if she wasn't literally in the so-called killing room, she was there and should have heard something and heard the dog bark and all of that. But I think even more importantly, her timeline is more important to show that more nefarious people were probably lying in order to protect her, protect Colin. I mean, you could see the formula. They're trying to disappear the kids from having any involvement in this. So presumably she's going to say she left at 1:30. And then the question is, when you get to Proctor eventually, or whoever, why, or maybe it was Lank, I forget, or both of them, but who wrote down that she left at 12:15? How are they going to negotiate that? It doesn't make any sense. You have both parents protecting their daughter, but now deny saying that they said that, and that just makes no sense. But I think Caitlyn will put the lie to that, and I think she'll have no choice but to begrudgingly acknowledge that that's her and Katie in all of these pictures. And okay, fine. If you want to use the word friend, fine, she's a friend, but the damage is already done because she's already blown it. She's already come out, splitting hairs and parsing words exactly that like Katie did. So at this point, if you get the pictures in, it doesn't really matter what she says, because the question becomes, why are they so hesitant and fighting, and rather than just saying we're friends? But that doesn't mean, from Katie's perspective, that she did anything wrong to cover this up. But given what she said and given what Caitlyn's probably going to say, you're just begging the jurors to doubt their credibility and wonder, why would they lie about something so stupid as being friends? And it's similar to like why Brian Albert lies about stupid things, why his wife lied about stupid things, why Chris Albert lied about how trying to imply how close he was to John O'Keefe when he was really a jerk off to him, really, and didn't even really seem to know him that well at all. I mean, in the grand scheme. So I think all of these Alberts just look terrible, and each one looks worse than the last. But clearly you've reached the top of the mountain with, the patriarch, and he is, I mean, a joke. His testimony today wasn't a bombshell, not that kind of joke, but that's going to be an ugly transcript when they get the transcript and they use that to frame their summation and rehash to a jury what he said and why it doesn't make sense on, 10 different points. I don't think a jury's going to credit anything he said unless there's independent corroboration. I just don't think they will, nor should they.
We got some comments here. Here's a question. What are your thoughts on Brian Albert Sr. talking to Lally at lunch? I don't know if that happened. What are your thoughts if it did happen?
What exactly are we talking about here? Today?
Yeah, I know, right?
Over the break today?
When people post questions like that, they should post a little more detail.
I mean, it's problematic because, there's what they call the rule, for lack of a better term. And, it's Lally's witness, but he's under cross-examination. And it's verboten for, a prosecutor to start communicating with a witness who's currently under cross. So if that's true, it's not appropriate.
I guess he admitted it, they said, on the stand. Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't want to get all tinfoil hat here either. I mean, if he saw him at lunch and said hello and kept walking on, who cares? If they sat down and were, chopping it up for 20 minutes and having an animated conversation, I think that would be problematic potentially. And that is the kind of thing that I would make a record of. And, it's not appropriate. It could be deemed unethical. It's certainly a violation of the so-called rule. And that would be bad if that's true. Again, I'd have to know what they were talking about, though. I mean,
right.
See people in the hallway, you say hello. I don't think anyone's going to complain. But if they're sitting down eating lunch together while he's on cross, that's bad.
Thomas just sent $4.99, said Jen McCabe is going to get slaughtered. She never went to bed. Her phone log is wild. I don't know who will be worse, her or Proctor.
I think they're both going to get slaughtered. I agree with you. I mean, they're both so exposed, but I think in terms of significance, Proctor is, I guess, more symbolic towards the whole cover-up generally. He's just a dirtbag. He's the poster child of the corruption, if you will, with all of that. But, I mean, from a pure reasonable doubt winning the case standpoint, if McCabe is discredited, the case is over. Period.
I mean,
right? I mean, how can they... If her story about
connected to everything,
what Karen told her and all this other stuff, if that's not, and seeing her out there, right, in the, if those texts to John O'Keefe are somewhat established to be after the fact shenanigans and whatnot, what juror would possibly think that there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt? Now, I know that sounds silly because there isn't going to be a juror who's going to do that anyway. But I think they're both critical witnesses. They're both going to get destroyed. If either one of them is destroyed, I think the case is in serious peril. But I think McCabe is the big one in terms of the whole ship going down.
Here's a comment. Sadie Neal says, absolutely no one sleeps with their phone and glasses in bed with them.
Well, I thought the most interesting part of that testimony was the glasses, actually. I think some people may occasionally fall asleep with a phone in the bed. I don't think that's like a regular thing that someone would do. But to say with a straight face that I mean, he's like a large man, okay? And if he rolls over, those things are destroyed. Who the hell would leave their glasses as a regular practice in bed? And then he says, well, my wife leaves them in too. So they're sharing their bed with two humans, 2 phones, and at least 1 pair of reading glasses. And then on top of all that, we had a feeling right around the time that I butt dialed Higgins, everybody got horny. And so that's probably what happened. I mean, this is embarrassing. It's so ridiculous on so many levels. You almost have to have this sick, perverse respect for him to look at everyone with a straight face, knowing he's on TV and saying, yeah, oh yeah, no, but that's what happened. I don't care what you say, that's what happened. Absolutely ridiculous.
It's bizarro.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say maybe a couple times I might have fell asleep with glasses on or the phone or whatever because I was overtired and I was just still wanting to watch a video.
He said this was on purpose, his
but-
regular practice, on
yeah.
purpose. No way.
But every night it goes, like you said, the nightstand. It's always the nightstand. It's like your first thing you grab is the glasses and the phone, but not in the bed. I mean, that's just not, it's who does that?
No, it's too many conveniences. The dog doesn't hear anything. Well, maybe the
Right.
dog is in the closet. It's probably a butt dial. Then it's probably a second butt dial. You know, I didn't get the letter. And then I happened to switch phones and delete everything the day before, but not the day after. I know that. I mean, at what point does a jury just say, I don't believe this guy, and I think they're going to discredit him? Now, I don't think that necessarily thinks that they mean we conclude that he killed anyone. I mean, they may or may not. I mean, there's still, the evidence is not, like, they've all denied it. I mean, you're going to have to speculate that because they're lying, they're doing this. But again, the goal of the exercise here for the defense is reasonable doubt. And if a jury is in a state of mind where they say, you know, these guys are all full of shit, something's going on here, so maybe they're not being honest, that's already reasonable doubt.
It's exactly
Even the lack of evidence against Karen Reed.
Right. Some other comments about Caitlyn. A lot of comments came in about Caitlyn. Yannetti walked her right into the KM convo. It was perfect. Can't wait for tomorrow. What do you think about this right here? Like, it's just, I mean, these guys really they know what they're doing. I mean, were you surprised how, like, she fell for it? She really did fall for something. Like, she didn't play that well. I felt like she ruined her credibility.
Are you suggesting she's not too bright, even though she's a Massachusetts Attorney General investigator? Is that what you're suggesting?
That's what it would seem to be. Not very street smart, or
probably not. And I mean, how you couldn't see it coming from a mile away when he started asking, you know, do you consider Higgins and asking
acquaintance?
Her Higgins acquaintance? If you
father?
can't see that coming from a mile away where this is going, I don't know what to say. I think you're right. I think she walked into it and her answer was so contrived. And to say that I'm unaware of anything going on, they have put it this way. Okay. That household has been getting just punched in the head in the media about this case for day after day for weeks. They're all getting hauled in one at a time. And there was a very strong news cycle last week where Caitlyn was a centerpiece of that, okay, given her Katie thing. And if you think a young woman who, by the way, works for the state, and everybody, you know, everyone's talking about this and like, that's her. If you think that she's unaware of this and at no moment, whether it's, you know, she locks her door and on private just watches so nobody thinks I'm watching, the idea that she had no idea what was being said about her and Katie is so ridiculous. It's strange credulity, again, would be the word I would use, and say the best evidence of that is her answer. It was so contrived and obvious what she was trying to do. But I agree with you, not on the whole very bright, because it wasn't natural and it was very defensive. And all she had to do is say, yeah, Katie's my friend. We've been, you know, we're not the best friends though. Yeah, but sure. We've hung out. We've known each other for 15 years. Yeah, we're friends. I have a lot of friends. Not a particularly close one. I've seen her around over the years.
But we're friends.
Right. And you know what? If Katie had said that, done. It's a nothing burger.
Yeah, dumb.
But they are dumb. I mean,
they are dumb. They're dumb and arrogant. And they think they can fix anything and their lives are going to work. John Barron just dropped $50. Thank you so much, John. He says, Mark, when two experienced trial attorneys prep for trial, do they split which witnesses they cross-examine prior to trial, or do they decide as the trial progresses? He likes Yannetti, but he wants Jackson for McCabe, Proctor, and Collin.
Oh, almost all the time. This is done way in advance. It's predetermined. I mean, they're not shooting from the hip here. they have 3 really good lawyers. They're dividing it up. Those decisions almost certainly would have been made way in advance. I know there was a lot of chatter online by some of these dopes the other day about, oh my God, they're panicking. So they tagged in,
Eliza Little.
and just like, it hurts my brain to look at some of this. No, that was always going to be the case. Is she going to do as many as they do? No. Is she going to do like Proctor and McCabe and Albert? Of course not. But, she's more than capable, and it would have been well determined that, she was going to be the dog witness. I know she did some pretrial stuff on that, and Nicole was, the main dog witness, and that was planned well in advance, and all this other stuff.
Good point. I didn't think of that. That's
Yeah.
a good point right there.
Yeah.
That's how
no Hail
far in
Mary.
advance it was planned.
Yeah.
That Eliza Little, she was the dog one. Yeah, she did all the dog DNA stuff.
She may have other witnesses. Again, are they going to probably be the most important witnesses in the case? Probably not, only just based on experience and whatever. That's not a slight by any stretch. I mean, as I told you last week, it's clear to me that Jackson is the lead lawyer. It doesn't matter what you call or what you say, but I think he's, the alpha of the group, but it's not exactly like the other two are any bad slouches. They've got, 3 very, very strong lawyers who are far and away the 3 best lawyers in the courtroom. Clearly,
Exactly.
Poor Lally is, whatever, but any one of them is going to do 1,000 times better than what he's doing.
You want to add anything to anything we've been discussing, or bring anything else up, Mazza?
Yeah, I saw Caitlyn and Tristan leaving court today. They looked, a lot of people reported that they felt they looked nervous walking out of court today. The way she explained the Katie McLaughlin portion was very, very notable to me because of her wordiness and the way she explained it. It was very contrived. It was very rehearsed. It was very over explained. And it just basically goes to show you that she knew she was trying to tiptoe her way around a maze where the floor could drop at any moment. That's just basically what I saw out of her. And, just the inconsistencies with the what went on in the house from the mother, Brian Jr., and Caitlyn as well. Basically, different descriptions of who played music, who didn't play music, what kind of activities were going on in the house were all kind of inconsistent to a certain degree. And overall, it's just these people have just essentially been, they know they're beat because they know the facts are not on their side. And the defense, we saw all 3 of them go today. David, Elizabeth, or Eliza, as they call her as a nickname, and David Unetti, not David Unetti, Alan Jackson, David Unetti, and Eliza Little all basically picked them apart piece by piece, and had their questions asked extremely well, and we're just not getting consistent answers. And that's the problem with this whole thing, is that when you're building a lie, when what you're saying is not concrete, it falls apart. And these, they're having to explain all this stuff over and over again. And it goes back to this very simple point. They seem like they're the ones that are the defendants here.
Exactly.
It does not seem like Karen Reed at all. These folks feel like the defendants. It's like they're trying to cover their ass. Katie McLaughlin, when she was on that stand a week ago, she could have made it a lot easier for Caitlyn, but she didn't. And she's made it a lot harder for her now. And when she's up there today, she's squirming a little bit. She's nervous. And a lot of people brought this up today outside the court, outside the buffer zone, all the sniffling from all 3 of them. I don't know if it's the pollen in the air or if it's just a nervous twitch or what. And Chris Albert was nervous as well last week. He kept touching his face constantly. These folks just know that they, when you're what it is too, and this is another conversation I had with a few people today. It's not like it's just one individual that's trying to manifest a story that is either a total lie or a partial lie or a very, very small lie. You have a lot of people here that are in play that have to keep a story consistent amongst one another. and they're all going up there and they're trying to remember what the original story is. And then they're also trying to remember, well, what did Katie say when she was on the stand? Or
Yeah,
what did so and
it's
so
like a
say?
game of
Yeah,
telephone. It's like
right.
a game of telephone.
Yeah.
Hard to keep track of.
It is, and Caitlyn has an extra reason to perhaps than the others to be nervous, which is if she's perceived to have lied or given false testimony or misleading testimony, she's an investigator for the state. Okay, if they determine at some point, this is like an employment issue potentially for her, that she gave not credible testimony in a murder investigation, and where it turns out that perhaps her family was helping to some extent frame an innocent woman or to save their own neck, then she's also going to be unemployed. So I'm sure from her perspective that's a concern. And as far as all the Alberts that have testified, she otherwise appears on the surface to be the most normal, if that's the right word.
I
know if
would
that's
say
the
that.
right
I would say that
term.
she's the most like polished in a way.
She
weird
looks
way.
like she could be
Normal,
if she wasn't mixed up in all of this crap, like just a normal. I mean, she has a good job. I assume she's good at it, whatever. But at the end of the day, her family is really enmeshed in this. They're all telling stories that don't match, and the problem is, again, they can argue all they want about, well, it's been 2 years and whether we were sitting at the kitchen table or the living room or whether Albert and Higgins went upstairs, or, that might be small potatoes. I'm not going to tell you a jury would obsess over that. But then you start with deleting the phones, the butt dials and all that stuff. And, we didn't tell them Colin was there. We didn't do this. And then you just, at some point, a jury is going to say, I've had enough of these people. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, today we had another one who calls the dog it. I don't know.
That was a good
So
point. I'm glad you brought up.
bizarre.
It's and this whole thing of, there's something weird with the dog. I'm sorry. It's just the way they just jettison the dog, because there was an unfortunate, what they claim is an incident, but it's a 6.5-year member of your family. And again, people who love their dogs don't do that. And I still I recall that Nicole Albert initially said that it was the people's fault who got bit, as if it wasn't his fault, which begs the question, why are you getting rid of the dog then?
Exactly.
If they're
It's
not
so many contradictions in all of it. And then calling it. And I'm so glad the defense brought that up again today. They brought it up again today.
Yeah. I mean, they should drive that day after day. I mean,
that's the thing. These people are so unlikable right now. Like, I don't see so many ways that people would on the jury could not like them, especially dog owners. Vanessa sent $9.99. She said, do you know if the Celebrate received I think she's basically trying to figure out if the Celebrate could tell if the phone was on the nightstand or in the bed. I don't think the Celebrate is going to be able to tell you that. No,
that's way too detailed. I mean,
that's too close.
And no.
Good point, though. Here's another one. What does Bederow think of Brian Albert Jr.'s testimony?
That's the one part today where I only saw not the entire thing, because I decided to just cut ahead due to time, because I was in court myself all day. So I saw a lot of his direct, very little cross. From what I saw, he looked very nervous. I don't know what that means without more. I mean, anybody in a murder trial who's on TV could be nervous. What were the major points that he said and were crossed on? I can certainly.
He didn't see anything. His mom was cleaning. He didn't see.
I heard that part. No, I think he said she likes to clean.
Yeah, she likes to clean.
Everything very stereotypical 1950s family in the Albert. Mom just jumps up and down. She likes to clean.
Yeah.
In our house. Yeah.
He also asked about Little's Cross. Dag Nabbit asked about Little's Cross. We already kind of talked about that. You think she did well?
I didn't see a lot of that.
You didn't see it today. That's right. But when she's done it in the past, you've liked it.
Yeah, no, I thought the Nicole Albert cross was good. I mean, she had a few moments where she got tripped up on the documents because the judge was giving her a hard time. But when you look at the transcript of that cross, I thought she did a very good job in making Nicole look in many ways foolish.
Now, another comment from Lissa. She's asking about the phone records because apparently they've been being challenged, and she's wondering. I've never seen phone records challenged in court before.
Well, what I guarantee you, no one has ever seen is a prosecutor who is challenging phone records, in terms of what the DA is saying. But I mean, look, both sides have experts apparently on a lot of this phone stuff regarding deletions and whatnot. All I can tell you is the defense seems pretty confident. And from what I've learned from some other people who have studied this factually, they seem to have the better technology, the better explanation. And of course, they also have the benefit of reasonable doubt. So if they put on a credible display that those records have to be accurate and their experts hold up, how is the DA going to get their version of what they claim it is to carry the day? I don't think they're going to do it. And because they have so many other problems anyway. So I think this is just another one of those, they're in denial, the same way they are about the defense experts on the reconstruction. I mean, I don't know how they're not sitting there stressing about that all day, every day, saying, what the hell are we doing? How are we getting around that?
Now, another good question brings us up to a good topic from Ask Bob. He says, Mike and Mark, did the victim advocate Stephen Nelson, working for DA Morrissey, tip Albert to the protective order about the phone the day before destruction? Is some coincidence? Is he at risk, or Morrissey? Who takes the rap? I mean, I think my thing is, doesn't this kind of almost set up maybe Albert gets called back later? Because it seemed like they were hinted. I think the defense knows more. What do you think? What do you think, Mr. Bederow, on that?
I don't
on all this.
think they know more, but I think they certainly left it in a place where Brian Albert's testimony is incredible on its face. And I think this is probably one of the major topics that got the feds all hot and bothered, because the idea that somebody clearly told them, right?
Right. That's what I think they might know. Who do you think they know who told? Do you think the defense knows who told them?
Probably not. I mean, I think if they knew it, they would probably have led with it a little more today. And, you'd have to look at their witness list too, to see if they have somebody lined up, but somebody clearly told them. It's letter coming from the DA's office. So I think naturally the likely source is someone in the DA's office, which is really disturbing.
What about the feds? Could be the feds, though. That's what I'm thinking.
The feds tipping off Brian Albert?
No. I meant the feds, basically letting the defense know what's going on.
They might.
Yeah.
I suppose that's a possibility, but to me, what's disturbing is the source of that leak almost certainly has to be someone in the DA's office, whether it's, at what level, I don't know. I mean, is it Mark?
Oh yeah, I see what you meant. I thought you meant that, they were actually had a self-sabotage or leaking. Okay. I see.
No, I think somebody's saying, buddy, I'm letting you know, we have a court order. We're sending out a letter tomorrow. Yeah. So, not that I'm going to tell you what to do or not do, but just so you know, tomorrow you're getting a preservation order.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Crafty Albert says, well, I got a new phone. I didn't have an order, so I didn't violate any order, which, I mean, if you accepted this nonsense, that would technically be true. But I think one of the things that he said, of all the ridiculous things he said today, was that he knew it had to be before, not after, even though
right.
No recollection of ever getting the letter.
Yeah.
I mean, this is really dumb stuff.
Exactly. Microdots asks, is this level of perjury prosecutable?
It's tough. I think probably of all the really stupid things he said today, the question would be, the most obvious perjury would be that he could be charged with is probably the least material, which is a kind of a critical element of perjury. So, for example, the most obvious lie, if you look at the testimony and the past testimony and everything else, are the stuff about whether he knew Karen Reed and whether he'd ever seen her before. That clearly was false. Now, Is it the most critical thing? No. Is it important? Yes. But usually you don't get prosecuted for perjury just on things that people like us might roll our eyes and say, wow, this is really dumb, like the butt dialing. I mean,
Right.
I don't think there is a sane person in the world who thinks that,
Butt dialing in bed.
that he was stupping his wife and somehow activated.
Come on.
I don't think anybody believes that. And so I think that is ridiculous, but is anybody going to prosecute on that? Probably not. Now, of course, if they ever developed real evidence that John O'Keefe was in the house, now you're getting somewhere where those denials, given the materiality, is critical. It's everything in this case, right? I mean, if John O'Keefe is in the house, they're screwed, right? The DA pretty much. So if it turns out that the defense has evidence that's credible and persuasive that he did go in the house, I don't know if they do or they don't, then I think this adamant testimony that he never, ever, ever came in the house, that would be an interesting thing to at least consider.
That's when it would come into play.
Apple Health data shows that he was walking up and down 3 flights of stairs, and he went towards the vicinity of that house. Now they've tried to argue that it can be off by a certain direction. Well, let me make this argument. Yeah, okay, it could be off by a couple feet, sure, but it could go in any direction, sure. But here's the thing. It goes right directly 434 Fairview Road. It doesn't go across the street. It doesn't go at an angle towards a tree. It goes right for that house. So if I'm a betting man, which I actually am, controlled better. I would say that he probably went in that house, and that Apple Health data is absolutely correct. And that 3 flights of stairs or whatever it was, however many flights of stairs it was, that's damning evidence right there that he, because we know at least 1 flight of stairs is the first floor down to the basement. So we know at least one of those flights of stairs is going to be, it takes him right to that basement. It drives him right down there. And that's the bottom line. And, I would, I'm still wondering, someone brought this to my attention the other day, and I never had this thought before in my life, but can't they, when you're tracking cell phone data, can't you track Karen Reed's cell phone data from that night? For example, if I have a phone in my pocket and I mow my lawn and I go back and forth on the lawn, Apple Health data typically can mark me going back and forth on my lawn. I've seen it actually done before. Now, with her being in a vehicle, if she were to drive in, forward and then back 64 feet in reverse, that would probably appear on her data as well. And I'm sure there'd probably be no evidence to show that she ever went in reverse. So it's just something, a theory I've been playing with the past few days that I just never thought of before.
Well, they clearly don't have it because you'd know.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's right. That's right.
They
Yeah.
would be pounding that repeatedly.
Exactly.
And of course,
That's right.
and by the way, that would be powerful evidence if it existed. I mean, you'd hate to want to believe that, but if they had evidence of her movements in a bad way, I think that would be powerful. But I mean, look, if the jury is to credit the Apple Health data that you just mentioned, and it shows John O'Keefe elevating and de-elevating basically at 34 Fairview, then again, you just have to look at the DA and say, where are you possibly going here? I mean, and
Mike, one quick, sorry, Mike, can you throw Olivia's comment up that she just put up a moment ago? She has some stuff. Sorry to interrupt you, Mark. I just want to get that
good.
comment drawn attention to. It was probably about like 10 comments ago.
Is this one?
Yeah, that's it right there. Why didn't they compare the location data on Karen's phone simultaneous to John's location data at the time in question? Exactly.
Yeah, no, I mean, they should have done that, and it could be very powerful to show, do they separate, are they together, and where do they break off? And, we've had cases before where this kind of stuff, or people tracking or not, is very important and can help make or break a case. And they didn't do a lot of things, obviously, for whatever reason. And the defense, the argument they'll make, because they didn't want to, because they had their girl. And so we're done here. There's nothing to see. And but again, if the defense, if their experts accredited about the up and down, I just don't know how you get around that. I mean, if it's at 34 Fairview and it's O'Keefe moving around, and most particularly up and down, as opposed to just around the lawn, the up and down can only mean one thing, right?
Yep, that's right. And someone explained too in the comments just that maybe this is a little key element I might have missed today, but I heard part of this was when they talked about how the flights of stairs going down. So Magnolia Gypsy Road, actually they confirmed today it's a set of stairs, down turn, a corner, down another set of stairs, then another flight would be upstairs through the bulkhead. So there's your basically your 3 flights of stairs right there, essentially. So that's a big piece for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean I mean, look, you can break this down so many different ways, and you just wonder why are they doing this, and what do they expect to happen? And there's no real answer for it. They're not tossing the case. I don't believe that,
No.
but they are delusional beyond belief. They have to know that they're not going to win, and they have to know that there's going to be some kind of federal retribution for certain individuals anyway, most likely at some point, depending upon what they say or from the prosecutor's standpoint, how they behave at the trial.
Here's a comment here. Attorney Mark, if Higgins took a proffer and the feds already know what happened, will the feds charge these people with perjury, especially Brian Albert consistently saying John O'Keefe never came in the house?
I mean, they could, but again, you're working on the assumption that Higgins is credible, which he may be, but you're dealing with a shady cast of characters who are all to some degree not credible, liars and whatever. And it's, to bring perjury charges just based on because one guy decides to jump on the federal team and he says this is what happened. Now, if they could corroborate what happened, then they might. But the other thing is this: if Higgins told the feds what happened, and what happened includes John O'Keefe went in the house and something dastardly happened to him, and again, whether Higgins was an active participant and after the fact helped clean up the mess or just a witness, if they had strong, credible proof of that, there'd be two things. Number one, I think the feds would be trying harder to stop the trial because at that point you sit down with the DA. And number two, then Higgins, how could he be on the DA's witness list? I mean, and how could he testify? Because, I mean, the DA is going to call him to say, I was in the house and this is how they killed John O'Keefe.
Maybe they won't call him now. I mean, maybe he's on the witness list and they don't call him.
Could be a bluff. But again, look at, I mean, any defense lawyer worth his salt, and in this case, 3 defense lawyers worth their salt, would say, well, we're going to call him. And of course, if he blows the lid off the whole thing and the DA knew that, because that's another thing. If the DA is aware that Higgins has a different story and they know that, well, that's Brady material, like of the, exculpatory evidence at the highest level. And it would be incumbent upon the DA, as much as they hate it, to inform the defense that, oh, by the way, Higgins is going to come in here and say that O'Keefe went in the house and, somebody beat him up and panicked and whatever. And at that point, even Morrissey, of all people, would probably have a serious discussion with his handlers, to the extent, he has any, to discuss pulling the plug.
Yeah. Would it be surprising if this case breaks with like a lesser name that none of us have thought of or like spoken? Like, we're talking about Higgins and Alberts.
Great question.
Like, I'm hearing a rumor right now that is weird. And I don't want to say it because, I don't want to tip people off. You know what I mean? Like, if something's going to happen, but it just seems like, would you wouldn't be surprised if like a name we've not mentioned breaks this whole case wide open? You would?
No, I
be
wouldn't
surprised?
be. I mean, look, the defense has done a lengthy investigation. Sometimes people come forward late for whatever reason. They're afraid of the Alberts, or they don't know, or this or that. But who's to say that some neighbor that the defense gets a hold of and they say, oh my God, I remember that. And I saw the guy go in the house, or I saw a bunch of weirdos, like 3 or 4 men huddling around the lawn where the body was found. Sure. I don't, I mean, I'm not saying it's likely, but I wouldn't exclude it.
What if it's a prosecution witness that the feds talk to?
That would be bad for the DA, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be pretty embarrassing and very bad and subject them potentially to all kinds of liability. Could be. But again, the question would be, does the DA know? If the DA knows, they have to tell the defense. I also think that the feds, if they had real exculpatory evidence, I mean real exculpatory evidence that goes to the heart of the crime, they would tell the defense. They're not going to sit there and watch an innocent woman potentially get convicted of murder that she didn't do. They're just not going to do that. And, you know, they would tell the defense would jump up and down. The first thing the defense would want to know is whether the DA knows. I mean, look, if the feds really wanted to torpedo the trial, the way they would do it is to tell both parties at the same time and then force the defense to get up and tell the judge, we just learned this from the feds. And, you know, we think the DA might have known this for some time and this and that. And this case is a joke. And this is on TV, of course. And at that point, just the pressure itself could lead the DA to punt. Because, again, at the end of the day, all they're thinking about is themselves. This has nothing to do with justice for John O'Keefe, for the Morrissey crowd. At this point, this is all self-preservation. They want her convicted so they can spike the football and say, we told you, you assholes. You came after these innocent Alberts. This is outrageous. We knew what we're doing, and we told you, and shame on all of you. That's what they want to do.
Exactly. Someone said, go ahead.
Yeah, a question for you, Mark. Based on your perception of Adam Lally and the prosecution from the beginning of this trial to today, do you think that the prosecution has been trending downwards already from the dumpster fire level that they began at on day one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think look, you watch the opening statement and your jaw hits the floor and you say, this cannot be the prosecutor that they've assigned to a case like this. Now, I didn't see all the pretrial stuff over the past couple of years, so maybe a lot of people probably had an idea that this guy's not ready for prime time, not up to it, and all of that. And then you saw that first week where it was the firefighters and the first responders, and we were talking about snow and, you know, shoveling the apron and all that stuff. And then it goes on the next week into the next wave of waterfall witnesses who have nothing to talk about. And then it goes into the Alberts who are all getting, you know, points are being scored by the defense. Yeah, no, I think this is full dumpster fire. They're 2.5 weeks in, and they still to this day don't have a single witness who said, I saw Karen Reed in a car.
Right.
I saw John O'Keefe
Right.
and she hit him and we
Right.
found this.
Right.
I mean, they have
no experts saying
Nothing.
this is what happened. Nothing. Just
No.
all this BS.
And the worst part is they're yielding all the ground to the defense, because all the jury right now is thinking tonight is this. I mean, the defense told us that this was a cover up and that we're going to learn all this stuff. And all they're thinking about tonight is, can you believe this Brian Albert guy with the butt dialing and all the other stuff?
Yeah.
We don't believe him.
Yeah.
And all these other people, they haven't even heard from Proctor yet, who they know is just going to be a train wreck in the event that he testifies. They've heard all this other nonsense, and they're human beings. It's human nature. They may not be talking amongst each other about the case, but I guarantee you they're all looking at each other saying, what the hell are we doing here? Why am I here? What are we doing? And why is this guy not calling witnesses who actually have information? I mean, the most amazing thing here is that if you accept the Alberts and all of them is true, at the end of the day, all they can say is, we saw Karen Reed at the bar. She was as sober as everyone else was. We invited them to the house and they never came.
Yeah.
We know nothing else.
We know nothing else. And here's a comment. I think a lot of the comments get answered just through our discussion anyways, and this is probably one of them, because we just said basically, we don't trust anything from Brian Albert, or the jury shouldn't at this point. Anyway, what is it?
No. Somebody said, was he there to comfort her?
Yeah. Do you think he was there to comfort her?
No, I think he's there to intimidate her as the architect of, I mean, to the extent you believe this, he's, you know, the big boss man, the police officer who knows what's going on. And let's make sure the story. Look, don't forget, McCabe initially didn't point the finger at Karen Reed. It took a couple hours. What did it take? Huddling in the Albert house.
With Albert, yeah.
To call the cops back and tell them this. No, Albert is there to see what she's going to say and to be the big physical and intimidating force that, you know, stick to the plan. And I need to know what's happening. Is everyone on the same page? No, he's not there to comfort her. he's there to make sure she's on the team and to know what's going on and to let her know, I expect you to, I mean, look, again, I'm speculating, not accusing him, but that would be the theory. And I think that's the theory Jackson was clearly arguing.
Lem is talking about some testimony that came in from Brian Jr., saying that he only saw 2 vehicles and not Higgins' vehicle, which is interesting. I mean, that could come up later too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did see this part. I mean, look, the kid, honestly, dragging this kid who maybe he's a nice kid too, I don't know, but it's kind of ironic because they tried to excise all their kids from this in the beginning, and now they're dragging them all in to go along with this story that doesn't make a lot of sense. And, you know, this guy doesn't see the car. He doesn't see anything that's important, but how convenient he sees the SUV and the tracks. I mean, that sounds a little, you know, hard to believe and a little convenient. Don't you
Yeah.
think?
Not believable to me.
No,
just
I
didn't buy any of it.
No, I thought that was, it's kind of sad because again, he certainly doesn't have, you know, he's not like the parents and the older ones, but still, you know, you're taking an oath and you're telling us a story that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. We got another comment from Scott McGinnis, $10. He's talking about levy and just, you know, the grand jury, the federal. Thank you so much for the donations tonight that have been coming in. I try to read them all. It's hard to get everyone up, but I want to thank you, Scott McGinnis, for sending a donation. What do you like? I guess witnesses tomorrow. We have no idea, right? Mazza Media.
We got Caitlyn. I'm not sure if she's fully wrapped up. I might have missed the last, but I think she might have already been all set. But I think I think we got Higgins, and I'm thinking Jen McCabe's going to be coming up soon here. The next
Do
day
we
or two.
definitely have Higgins though?
I'm
Has that been
speculating, but
announced? Yeah.
I'm
I mean, you
speculating.
saw that list too. It seemed like he
Yeah.
should already been called.
Yeah.
Tristan Morris is another one I would kind of expect.
Tristan Morris, I would definitely say at the top of your list will probably be after Caitlyn, the next one up for sure. So there's so she is back in the morning. Someone just said so. Yeah, she'll be
Yeah,
back.
she's back.
Yeah, they're still
Tristan.
fighting over the
Already.
picture. They're still fighting over the pictures with her.
And it's a half day tomorrow, but I'd imagine that I don't expect Tristan's cross-examination to be anything more than, I mean, if they don't even ask him any questions, I wouldn't be shocked. But if they do, I can't imagine it's going to be many. So I'd imagine tomorrow we'll see those two plus, you know,
Somebody
based on
else.
whoever the third, you know, if the third person's kind of a big key player, you know, that might be the remainder of the day. So that someone just said Jen McCabe's attorney was supposedly there today. So they, you know,
Kevin Reddington, he was there today.
Yeah, so Jen will be up. I mean, if she's not up at like end of day or the last hour or something tomorrow, then definitely she's got to be up soon at this point. Like her and Matt for sure. So these people they must be having nightly they must have some kind of like secret group chat or something on something where they're just talking every night amongst themselves and or cemetery meetings or something right now, because I'm telling you, they're already struggling as it is to keep their bullshit story intact. And I can't imagine just how much this thing's going to unravel, because this is, you know, going back 2 weeks, you know, one of the things I felt was that the defense was going to not really take down any one individual on an all out basis. They were going to basically do enough cross-examination to basically put a dent in every single person that the prosecution calls. And then over the course of time, you know, I hate to use a Street Fighter video game reference, but it's like when you have to attack the car during that side mission level, you know, every time you hit the car, it creates a dent. But, and maybe I use a different analogy. Okay, let's just say you're breaking bricks, and every time you hit a brick, it starts to break. And then eventually all the bricks are broken. You know, that's exactly what's happening here, is that they've just broken one brick at a time, and eventually the house crumbles, you know, and that's exactly what they've done. And I talked about this, I think the last time we were on the show, I think me and Mark had, you know, the Mark had elaborated on this, and I want specific timeframes of how long cross-examinations go for key players. And what I got from the defense today with Brian Albert's cross-examination time frame wise was perfect. I want like that 3 to 4 hour range on the big key players every single time, because I think it's the only way to thoroughly get every last drop of questions out of them and re-asking some of those questions and trying to get them to elaborate on it. What was very alarming first thing this morning was when Alan Jackson very clearly asked Brian, when's the last time you spoke with Adam Lally? And he comes back and says, well, 2 years ago in
Bunch.
2022. And then he comes back and says,
Prepping.
something else about whatever, cross or whatever preparation. And he said, like, or more recent time. And he's like, did you not understand
No,
my question?
he's
You know?
he's cooked on that, because I guarantee you what they're going to say in summation. Of all the witnesses, Brian Albert is the cop who's testified 100 times. He knows what that question meant. He preps all the time. He talks to prosecutors. Some dope can get away with that, who arguably, I don't even think a lesser witness would necessarily be credible on that. But for a guy who's been a police officer for 30 years and admitted he's testified probably 100 or more times, to parse words and then say, you confused me. I didn't know you meant prep when you said, when's the last time you spoke to Lally? And as part of that question, he said, did you talk about the case? And he's saying no, but then, oh, I thought you were talking about prepping. That is just so disingenuous. Yeah, no, that was bad. I mean, again, because he's a professional witness for all intents and purposes, it's impossible that he did not understand the questions he was being asked on that subject.
This is gonna get wilder. I just feel it. Jennifer McCabe and maybe Higgins, even Tristan Morris, I think could be interesting, and some of the other people, Ryan Nagel, and we got a lot more to come. This week, I think, is going to be the turning point. It already feels like it. Monday, I don't see how this gets any better for the defense. Do you see any way that this, for the prosecution, excuse me, do you think there's any way that this could get better, Mark, at all?
I mean, it's all relative. I mean, they've set this up in such a crappy way that the remainder of their so-called evidence, I think it probably lands as a dud. For example, presumably they have nasty text messages that Karen Reed sent O'Keefe shortly before, after they left the bar. And, you're left to wonder, well, what happened? They left so happy. What the hell happened? But with everything else that's going on, does that land at this point? There are so many other problems, and you're working on a reasonable doubt concept. So I don't know that that's going to have the impact that they want. When they come forward with any scientific evidence, they torch that, go back to the Solo cups and the Stop and Shop bags and the leaf blowers. So they've already damaged the impact of somebody coming in and saying, oh, there's DNA on the back of the car, if that's what they're going to do. Other than that, the medical examiner isn't going to move the ball forward. I mean, she couldn't even classify the manner of death, but threw in her volunteer opinion that not a fight, though. And then somebody had said, I don't know if this is true or not, so take it for what it's worth, that she somehow offered some kind of a amendment to her opinion, noting I'm not qualified on certain things like that. Well, if you're not qualified about it, then shut your pie hole. That makes no sense. That's just. This is a scientist who's basically offering an opinion that helps the prosecution, clearly was suggested to her. And then when the pressure turns up, says, well, you know what, for all intents and purposes.
You think she's, afraid of getting sued or something? It seems like it.
I don't know if she's afraid of getting sued. I'd be afraid of being ridiculed and fired.
There you go.
If I'm her and she's doing this and saying I'm not even qualified and I'm giving self-serving opinions that have nothing to do with science, or at least I can't offer a scientific explanation. I mean, let's see what she says when she's cross-examined about, you said this couldn't have been from a fight. That's a conclusion. Tell me the science. Why is that? Medically, explain that. And I don't know if she can or won't. And one thing I will tell you, because these are real lawyers, the way they will do it, they will use their expert for two purposes. The obvious one, they'll call an expert who will say this is consistent with this, but they're also going to use their expert to train them. We're lawyers, we're not doctors, so we don't understand this stuff, but we can learn from these people. And they will tell whichever lawyer is doing the cross of the medical examiner, ask this, ask this, ask this, and so that they're not getting talked over. The biggest fear when you have an expert as a lawyer is you get
don't know
talked
enough.
over because
Yeah.
you don't know. They can just talk right over you and say, sit down,
Yeah.
sit down,
You
little
don't know what you're
guy, go
talking
back
about.
to the little kids table. You don't know anything about hematomas and this and that. But their own expert can help with that. And if they get the doctor to admit all of that, then that's incredible damage to the DA's case again.
Another comment came in and said, Karen Reed was waiting outside and thought John O'Keefe forgot about her and just jumped into the party. She was mad. She was pissed. I mean, that's what seems like happened here. We don't know what's going to happen though this week in court. What are your final thoughts tonight? I guess. I mean, we're running earlier than usual, which is good. It's late. What, Mazza, you go first.
Sure, absolutely. The defense, like I said, is just picking them apart piece by piece, cross-examination by cross-examination. I mean, you had Brian Albert, who is really one of the big three here. I think Jen and Michael Proctor being the other two. And absolutely, despite his best efforts to just use his experiences in the courtroom and just really getting absolutely outdueled by Alan Jackson. And my big thought about Alan Jackson today, too, is, and I commented about this on X today, was Alan Jackson brought it to the highest level that we've ever seen him do so far in this particular case. I mean, it was full court press. It was an all-out blitz. It was an in-the-park home run where basically he just went for it. And it was just absolutely marvelously done today. And I just thought the way he just pressed them, he asked follow-up questions. He did not rush. He kept them and asked them, like you said about the time. Was there a misunderstanding when I asked you a question about when's the last time you've talked to Adam Lally? Because I just asked you a moment ago and you said 2 years ago, and I asked you another question, and now you're talking about this. And I love the way Alan Jackson kept the pressure on him today. He did not show any intimidation of this man. He forced that man to answer questions, and it was absolutely stellar. If I was in his shoes or anybody else's shoes that was being cross-examined by Alan Jackson, I would be extremely nervous right now and shaking in my shoes, because this is why it's so important that Karen just got these attorneys on her side, because when you're up against something this extravagant, this is not your typical case. This is a frame job, and you just need people that can absolutely deliver for you. And I said it again tonight. I in a private conversation, I said, if my life was on the line, I hope and pray that's my defense team. If I was ever framed for something, because this attorney team is awesome. And if I can't have them, then I know another great attorney that's on this show as well. So I'll kick it over to him.
To me, it's so perplexing how awful that is. And it's hard that, like, each day you think maybe it will get better and it doesn't. And there's three incredible things happening here. Number one, they're not offering any affirmative proof of the defendant's guilt. Number two, the defense is discrediting every prosecution witness. But number three, on top of discrediting the prosecution witnesses from what they're saying, they are impeaching them in a way to push their own case forward before they're even close to starting their own case. That's how bad this is. They are advancing their entire theory by just slicing and dicing the prosecution witnesses and leaving nothing to show for it. I mean, so think about it. You have no DA evidence at all. All their witnesses are being discredited, and they're all supporting what the defense told you is going to happen, or at least you're going to consider in the opening.
Absolutely.
And, a lot of people said, this is crazy, the frame up and all you lunatics, you need all these witnesses and this and that. And they're never going to prove, I don't believe, a frame up, not affirmatively prove it, but they have put so many breadcrumbs out there and so many weird facts and things that how does any one of these jurors not say, you know what, it's at least possible?
Yeah. I mean, the jurors must be thinking that now. They must be like us, like, they're probably thinking like, man, I just don't know. I want to know why. It's like a story to them now. I have a feeling where
Yes.
they know something's not right, but they don't know what. Yeah, it's like they must be into it. I guarantee you, they must be just sitting there
There's
like, where
something
is this going to go? Where is this going?
there's clearly something sketchy in some degree going on that's going to make jurors think. And then if they think about it the way they're supposed to think about the case, well, let's analyze the DA's case and make sure we're doing the right way. And so you can picture them sitting around the table and say, let's talk about the DA's case. And some juror get up and saying, what case? I mean, seriously, what? I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I think they'll be thinking about like the McAlbert case more than the Karen Reed case. That's where I think they're thinking right now. I think the juror's like, something's not right about the McAlberts. It's not Karen Reed, it's the McAlberts, like it just.
No, it's and there's so much weirdness about what they've done, and you can break it down in so many ways. But to me, the easy one for the defense to grasp, and then you can show what happened before and after, is the McCabe, I remembered this to tell the cops, occurring after their initial meeting, after what we're calling the McAlberts are huddling together. And effective lawyers in summation are going to say, just let's break that down. This is after the deleted calls, after the panic back and forth, everything. And then all of a sudden,
After the butt dials, yeah.
Right. And then the light goes on after she huddles with all the other McAlberts to say, let's get back in touch with Lank and say that Karen Reed told us this. I don't know how just on that alone with everything else, the jury's not going to say something is really messed up here, really dirty here. It's crazy, but it appears to be true.
Yeah, like the old say, if there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, that's what they got to be thinking right now.
The problem is there's a lot of smoke, and there may not be fire yet, but there's a ton of smoke, and it just
it's all there is. It's all just smoke. That's it. There's nothing else.
And more of it keeps coming. And tomorrow they're going to sit there and with Caitlyn, they'll start out with the pictures and say, why are all these girls lying about being friends? Oh, she's a family friend and she's a firefighter who's the only one who heard this. I hit him. It's just another example of what are we doing here?
Yeah, just like all the relationships too, the Proctor family and the mother-in-law, the mother and the sister and geez.
It's crazy.
Well, I want to thank you guys. I don't know. Tomorrow night, are we doing another show? Everyone wants to know every night. Like we always figure it out kind of last minute, don't we?
Yeah, I'm out tomorrow. I got a game I'm attending tomorrow, so I'll be unavailable tomorrow. So I'll be back for Wednesday though if you need me Wednesday. Yeah.
Cool. I'm sure we'll be doing something.
Oh yeah.
What about Attorney Bederow?
Earlier is better tomorrow. I don't have to
earlier. Okay, I like earlier too.
Yeah,
That's why I'm like, this is a late night. We need to.
This was a long day.
It was. Yeah. You had to work too. So yeah, we all work and it's crazy. So I want to thank you both for being here tonight, and we'll try to do something early tomorrow night.
Okay. No problem. Have a great night. I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you so much.
Free Karen Reed.
Free Karen Reed. Exactly. And before everyone watching checks off, we're just going to thank everyone for supporting us. I guess we're just over 11,000 now. Just a couple days ago, we were at 10 on YouTube, which is awesome. Thank you so much. And we have some donations tonight. Teresa just said $10. She said for the recaps and for Mark Bederow. Thank you so much for being a guest tonight, Mark Bederow. I want to thank MJ, who is the moderator for us as well, and Mazza Media for being here tonight. Catherine sent $10. She said, I wish I could give more. Thanks for the coverage. Thank you, Catherine, for the donation. Barbara sent $25. She said, great show for a great show. Thank you so much, Barbara. I think that was it on the Cash App, and I just want to check the Venmo real quick. And it looks like nothing on the Venmo tonight. Wait, did I miss one? Nope. Those are all yesterday. Kathy was the last one. She said 20, and she said, love your stream. Keep up the good work. We got a long trial ahead. I think that was last night, actually. So it's funny tonight. We get them on the Cash App, which is great. Glad we still have some Cash App people. They're leading the way tonight. Usually it's Venmo people. Cash App took over tonight. Super Chat was the real big leader. Dreamer Thinker just sent 10 more dollars. She said it's because Catherine gave 10, so now you gave another $10. Thank you so much. I guess that's like a matching donation or something. Thank you so much, Dreamer Thinker. And thank you, Catherine, for bringing in the match. FKR said they sent a Venmo the other night. I hope I didn't miss it. I try to read them all. It's sometimes hard. I'm not very tech savvy, so it's hard for me to do things on the fly. To say the least. Leah Baker says, thanks, everyone. Thank you, Leah, for becoming a member tonight, I believe, or maybe renewing. We got a notification on that. And I want to thank everyone who did a super chat tonight. I hope I put them up all on the screen. I tried to ask as many questions that you put up tonight. Some of them we already asked too as well. So this was a funny one. Do the Alberts not brush their teeth? I don't know. I didn't notice. I guess you're talking about the testimony. Yeah, they just come home and jump right into bed. It's a good point. I always brush my teeth before bed. That's pretty much it. I brush them in the morning and at night. I know you're supposed to brush them after every time you eat and floss and all that shit. I never do, unfortunately. But I think morning and night before you go to bed, I think most people do that. We got another new member here. Shell T, thank you so much. You know what I'm going to do to end the show? I'm just going to play a little more Brian Albert because it's so much fun.
The data on that phone.
Bring him back up.
Factory reset and destroyed.
Objection.
Do you know that, sir?
I do not know that.
How many times have you upgraded your phone in your life?
I'm not sure. 4 or 5 times, maybe.
You're aware that when you turn a phone in and you upgrade it, the phone that you turn in, that data is factory reset, meaning it's gone. It's destroyed off of that device, correct?
Well, I think some data transfers and some doesn't.
We're not talking about a backup.
Oh, thank you. We just got a Venmo donation. Thank you so much. We did. Venmo's not getting shut out tonight. Darlene just sent $10. She said, love your dedication. Thank you. Thank you, Darlene. You're awesome.
I'm talking about the physical phone. That physical phone becomes a brick when you turn it in, correct?
Correct that it becomes a brick?
Look at it.
I don't know.
I don't know. Does it come a brick?
There is no data left on the phone. I'm not talking about backup data onto a cloud. I'm talking about that phone.
So the old phone, yes.
Yeah, it's just everything on it's destroyed, correct?
Right, although some of the data transfers to your new phone.
And you're aware that the very data
He's
that
trying to
you were
minimize
wanting
it.
to preserve
This-
would have been
some of the
destroyed.
data,
According to you,
not
it's
all of it.
before,
Not all of it.
correct?
He's pissed.
Rephrase your question or ask me a question.
If you're, are you claiming that you got rid of your phone on the 22nd? You
I
it
upgraded my phone around that. I'm not sure if that's the exact date, but yes.
So it could have been after the 22nd.
I don't think it was after the 22nd.
Could have been the 24th?
No.
Got
Could
him.
have been the
That's what
25th?
Mark Bederow
No.
was talking
So
about.
you're absolutely sure that you could not have upgraded your phone and gotten rid of it anytime after the 23rd when this judge ordered that it be preserved.
No.
Because you know that if you got rid of that phone after you had been notified that you were ordered by a court to preserve it, you'd be committing a felony.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
So you now claim that you got rid of the phone on September 22nd, 2022. Hours before you were ordered to preserve it. That's your testimony, correct?
Yes.
Is that just
Yes.
a coincidence?
Yes.
September 4th was my birthday. The phone was broken and failing. I had planned on getting a new phone, and that just happened to be the day that I got it.
Happy birthday. Was that a coincidence?
Objection.
Sustained.
You were asked at another hearing in June of 2023 that exact question, correct? Whether it was a coincidence. You remember that?
I don't.
You recall being asked, quote, "So it's just a coincidence that within minutes, hours, or days,
Objection, Your Honor.
Let's hear the question first.
within minutes, hours, or days of you trading
Wow. Thank you so much for the super chat donation. $5 just came in. Said, I love this show. Shared you to my Facebook group, 24,000 members. Thank you so much, FKR 2024. Awesome. You're awesome. Thank you.
in your phone, that phone you had in January of 2022, that you were ordered to preserve it? Answer, yes. Question, that's a coincidence? Answer, yes.
Objection. Move to strike.
I'll let that stand.
That was your testimony, wasn't it?
Yes,
And that's what you're saying today to these jurors. Just
Yeah.
a coincidence.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
Did you and Brian Higgins agree with each other that you were both going to get rid of your phones?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No,
You testified at the other hearing in June of 2022, quote, "I don't recall saying that I was going to get rid of my personal phone to Brian Higgins. I may have said that, there's personal stuff on my personal phone. I don't recall saying that to him, but I don't know. We had multiple conversations about things," end quote. Remember testifying to that?
yes,
So you're not ruling out the fact that you may have told Brian Higgins that you intended to get rid of your phone, correct?
no,
You're not ruling out the fact that Brian Higgins may have told you that he intended to get rid of his phone.
no. I don't remember him saying that to me.
Your testimony was, quote, "I know there were conversations about the phones. I just can't say if he was going to get rid of his phone or not," end quote. You testified to that, didn't you?
Yeah, I have no idea what he was going to do.
I'm asking, are those your words? Did you testify to that under oath?
Yes, although I don't know the context of the time that they were asking that question.
June of 2020.
No, not the date of the hearing, but when they were asking if and when that conversation took place.
Does it really matter when it took place?
I think so, yes.
When you talked to Brian Higgins about getting rid of your phones, when do you think you had that conversation?
I don't think I talked to Brian Higgins about getting rid of my phones.
Well, you just said you can't rule out the fact that you had conversations with Brian Higgins about your phones and possibly getting rid of your phones. Right?
No, I don't think that's what I said.
You two discussed the fact that you both wanted to get rid of your phones.
I don't remember having that conversation with Brian Higgins at all.
Your testimony was, quote, "I know there were conversations about the phones, sir." Correct?
Correct that that's what you read.
So if you're having conversations with Brian Higgins about the phones, what the heck were you talking about?
I don't know the timing of when they asked when those conversations were.
Mr. Albert,
So
I'm leaving it open to you. I don't care when it was. I'm asking you, have you ever had a conversation with Brian Higgins about your phones, respectively?
we may have, I can't remember that conversation specifically.
Then why in June of 2023 did you testify, "I know there were conversations about the phones" with Brian Higgins, end quote?
I'm not sure of the context of that.
So now you just can't remember.
No, I don't think I could remember during that testimony either. I think if you read the whole thing, I think I said, I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Your quote was, "I know there were conversations about the phones. I just can't say if he said he was going to get rid of his phone or not," end
Right.
quote.
Right.
Does that help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
So now as you sit here and you answer my question, did you and Brian Higgins have a conversation about your phones?
I don't remember having that conversation with Brian Higgins.
All right, let's shift gears. Before I shift gears, you're aware that Brian Higgins has also gotten rid of his phone, correct?
I am not aware of that until after the time you're talking about.
So without qualifying your answer my question. As you sit here, you're aware that Brian Higgins has also gotten rid of his phone.
I know at some point, Brian Hick,
Yes or no, Mr. Albert?
did he?
Objection, Your Honor.
Can you answer that, yes or no, sir?
Yes.
Now I'd like to shift gears and talk a little bit about Michael Proctor. Did Michael Proctor come into your home at 34 Fairview on January 29th?
Yes.
Michael Proctor? Let me rephrase the question. I want to make sure I'm not talking about Officer Lang, Officer Good.
Right.
Michael Proctor from the Massachusetts State Police. Did he come into your home on January 29th?
He conducted an interview with my wife, and I don't remember if it was the 29th or the 30th. That's what you're asking.
Wasn't that interview on February 3rd?
I feel like it was earlier than that, but it could have been February 3rd.
Okay. Presume for purposes of my question that it was February 3rd that Michael Proctor interviewed your wife. Then he would not have come into your home on the 29th, 30th, 31st, 1st, or the 2nd.
Right.
And you know from your training, obviously, as a first responder, the first 48 hours of an investigation are absolutely critical, correct?
Objection.
Do you know that, sir?
In that context, I don't.
Next question.
I mean, you're aware there's a TV show called The First 48.
Objection, Your Honor.
Do you think the first 48 hours of a criminal investigation are critical?
Objection.
You do know that the longer you wait to properly investigate anything, the better chance that evidence can be manipulated or destroyed, right? You would agree with that.
Yes.
Did an investigator or any forensics team ever come into your house, ever, to photograph your entire home?
No, I wish they had.
Did an investigator, yeah, me too.
Objection, Your Honor.
Did an investigator or forensics team ever come into your house to search for physical evidence?
No.
Did an investigator or a forensics team ever come into your house to search for trace evidence?
No.
Did an investigator or forensics team ever come into your house to take carpet samples, flooring samples from the basement, for instance?
No.
And to this day, you're aware that that's never happened.
Yes.
Sir, you were in the Marines before you were a police officer, correct?
Yes.
You're a combat veteran?
Yes.
How long were you in the Marine Corps?
4 years.
During the course of your Marine and military training, did you have any training in hand-to-hand combat?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes.
In addition to your Marine training on the subject, did you also receive additional training from the police department through the academy or otherwise on basic hand-to-hand combat?
No.
So that's not part of the academy?
Not hand-to-hand combat. No.
Fighting techniques, use of batons, things of that nature?
Defensive tactics.
Defensive tactics. Okay, that's fighting, right?
Well, it's not hand-to-hand combat. No.
Okay, fair enough. I may be using the wrong word. It's physical, it's training on how to either defend yourself or control another person physically.
Yes.
I mean, they're not going to send you out there on the streets completely ill-equipped. They need to know that you know how to defend yourself and how to put somebody in custody that doesn't want to be in custody, correct?
Yes.
And that might include fighting.
It could. Yes.
And beyond your Marine training and your police training, you're independently trained in techniques of fighting.
Have I boxed before? Yes.
Okay. And you've trained in boxing. It's not like you just walk up and smack a heavy bag, right?
You'd have to rephrase.
You've trained. You're a trained boxer. You're a trained fighter.
I've boxed in the past, and I've trained to box. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've hit a heavy bag.
Right.
But I'm not a trained fighter. You're a trained fighter.
All right, so there's an objection. You were standing, Mr. Lally.
Yes, sir.
Jurors disregard that. Mr. Jackson, no comments, just questions, please.
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, your boxing skills were featured in a TV show that you were featured in as well, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No.
You were in fact, no?
That they were featured in a show, no.
You were never shown on TV in a ring sparring with somebody?
I may have been shown training, but I don't think I was having a boxing match, no.
Okay, I wasn't suggesting that you were having that. I was asking, is there a TV show that ever showed you in a ring boxing?
Well, that's not what you asked me, but if you're asking me that now, yes,
I'm asking you that now. I apologize. My questions are somewhat inartful.
yes,
You understand the question now?
yes.
And you have been shown, I use the word featured, you've been shown on television in a boxing ring,
Yes,
sparring.
I haven't seen the video in a while. I'm not sure if I was sparring.
If we can, Your Honor, with the court's permission, can we take a look at Exhibit 53?
Okay,
There's a clip starting at it's time of day 11:47 and 15 seconds to 11:48 and 35 seconds, maybe a minute and a half. Can you enhance that? Pause. Do you see the two men in the foreground?
Yes,
Who are those two men?
looks like myself and Brian Higgins.
Does it look like yourself and Brian Higgins, or is that yourself and Brian Higgins?
Yes, it is.
Could you go ahead and play that? I've got one more clip to play, but I have a couple of questions, Your Honor. Would you,
let's take it down and you can put the other one up after the questions.
Did you see what was displayed on that video?
Yes,
Had you seen that before?
part of it, yes.
Is that what you and Mr. Lally went over in your preparation for your testimony?
I don't think that we went over it, but he showed me a quick clip of it.
When you say he showed you a quick look, did he ask you questions about it?
I don't think so, no.
Did you give him any answers about it?
No,
Any explanations?
no, just,
He just showed you the clip and?
yeah, he just said, yeah, it looks like we were fooling around.
Okay, so you did make an explanation, you've given him
Yeah,
an explanation for it.
right. I said, I think we were just fooling around.
Okay, it's the same thing you told us this morning, right?
Right.
Just fooling around.
Yeah, just having fun with my friends and hanging out and fooling around.
Absolutely. What were you doing? Describe what you were doing.
Having fun with my friends, hanging out, just being silly.
Describe physically what you were doing in the video.
I was playing around, sort of getting in a boxing stance.
Otherwise known as a fighting stance, correct?
Yeah, for a second, yes.
Okay. And what did Brian Higgins do when you got into a fighting stance?
It looked like he was kind of doing the same thing.
Got
We
into a
just,
fighting stance as well, correct?
yeah,
What were you two talking about? You tell you talking.
yeah, I don't know what we were talking about. We were just being silly, fooling around, having fun.
Were you giving him advice on the proper way to get into a fighting stance or a boxing stance?
No,
You giving him some advice or some indicators about how to best position himself if someone is taking an aggressive stance against him?
no,
Is he telling you what he thought was a good technique for fighting or boxing.
I don't think it was that serious. We were just playing, fooling around.
But both of you were in fighting stances facing off against each other, correct?
Yeah, for a second or two.
And Mr. Higgins, you saw him bob his head and then start walking up toward you like a boxer might, correct?
Yeah, yes.
And then you got down, pulled your pant legs up, and you squatted down to indicate getting low,
That-
having low center of gravity, correct?
That would know that's indicating being silly. That
Okay. And
that's
then at
not.
some point while you're being silly, you then faked a right punch toward him, correct?
I didn't notice that, but I'm not sure.
Can we take a look at the next part of this clip, which is at time of day 11:55 and 51 seconds. I'm sorry, 11:54 and 52 seconds. Pause it. And highlight it. Okay, there's several individuals crowded around a table. Can you describe where you are and where Mr. Higgins is?
Brian Higgins is the guy on the right with the hooded sweatshirt and the emblem on the back. I have a pointer. Do you want me to use it?
That'd be great. That'd be great.
So that's Brian Higgins, and that's me.
Okay, go ahead and play this. Pause. You see what you just did?
Yes.
What'd you do when you slapped his right arm?
What did I do?
What did you do? What are you doing?
It looks like I'm just being silly, fooling around.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you for a little bit more physical description. What are you doing? Why are you grabbing him from behind?
I don't really know.
Is that a wrestling hold?
No,
Is
I
that a
don't think so.
control hold?
No, I don't think so.
Is that some sort of a control hold that you've used in the past?
Bear hugging somebody? No.
Okay,
That's just a silly fooling around with my buddy.
let's go ahead and play this. You see what Mr. Higgins just did?
I did, yeah.
When you let him go, what did he do?
I don't know. He did some kind of, I don't know, he pretended to knee me or something.
Knee to the abdomen?
Yeah, I don't know if it made contact or not, but
Mr. Albert, I'm not suggesting by my questions that you two are actually in a fight.
right.
I'm asking what he's doing. Does it seem to? does
Yeah,
it
yeah, I don't,
you that he's playing like or practicing like techniques in fighting?
I don't know what his intent was. It looks like he's just fooling around, just like I was.
But if a grown man walks up to you, grabs you from behind, and puts a knee up to your solar plexus, that's probably not the same as a high five, right?
What is your question?
In other words, it looks like he's practicing some sort of fighting technique.
Practicing? That's not how I see that.
How would you describe it?
Just describe it as him fooling around. We're in the bar together. We're good friends, and we're just being silly and fooling. That's all.
There's a number of people in that bar. You would agree with that?
Yes.
You see anybody else in that video at any time getting physical with one another?
Objection.
How much of this video have you actually watched?
Not much.
Okay, then let me ask a different question. From your memory of that night, who are the only two people in the bar that seem to be getting physical with one another?
Objection.
Sure. The only person I remember being physical with was fooling around with Brian.
Okay, play it just a little bit longer. Almost finished. Let me take that down. Did you see the rest of that video?
Yes,
No question that you two are being friendly with one another, correct?
yes,
You would agree with that?
yes.
But there's also no question that of all the people in that bar, the only two people that appear to be imitating fighting are you and Mr. Higgins, correct?
In that video, yes.
And is there another video?
Well, no, I just don't know what everybody else was doing in the bar.
Do you remember anybody else? You know, Julie Albert or
I don't remember.
Nicole getting into a scrap with someone?
No,
That was just you two, correct?
yes,
Mr. Albert, this is minutes before everybody headed to your house at 34 Fairview, correct?
yes,
Including John O'Keefe.
yes.
Going back to the morning of January 29th, everyone had left your location. This is after you had already arrived, had a couple of beers, people started leaving. Everybody was gone from your location at about 1:45 a.m., maybe a little thereafter.
That seems right.
Caitlyn being the last person to leave.
I believe so, yes.
What did you do to get ready for bed, to settle in?
I went upstairs and just lied in bed. The TV was on. I was just kind of watching TV.
You have a nightstand?
I do.
Is it on your side of the bed or Nicole's, or you have one on each?
We may have had one on each in that house.
Put your phone on your nightstand?
No.
Where'd you put your phone?
The phone was in bed with me.
So your testimony is that you get in bed after being on a road trip all day long, then at restaurants, and at bars, then at a get-together at your house. And when you go to bed, you don't charge your phone?
No. I had the phone in the bed with me.
Why would you have the phone in bed?
We have 5 kids, and if somebody was trying to call or if I needed to reach them, it's just kind of a habit I do. I put my reading glasses and my phone in bed with me.
And you don't charge it.
Sometimes I charge it, but not as a routine, no.
So you're worried about having your kids out. They might need to get a hold of dad. So you make sure that your phone is nice and close, but it can just run out of batteries.
Well, if it's dying, then I'll put it in the charger. But if not, I just leave it on the bed.
Well, what about that night?
That night, the phone was on the bed.
How do you know?
Well, I remember the phone being on the bed.
You have a specific recollection from 2.5 years ago about the state of the battery charge on your phone such that you know it was in your bed that night.
No, I just know as a routine, I keep my phone in the bed with me.
That's not what you just said. You just said it depends on whether or not the battery needs to be charged, whether or not you charge it.
My answer is that sometimes I, of course, charge my battery,
Of course you have.
but I sleep with the phone in my bed.
Every single night?
Yes, mostly every night.
I thought you just said 4 questions ago, it depends on whether or not the phone needs to be charged. Sometimes you keep it in bed, sometimes you put it on the charger.
If the phone needs to be charged, I charge it, but I sleep in bed with my phone.
Mr. Albert, did your phone need to be charged that night?
Don't remember if it did, but I slept in bed with the phone.
You've been on a road trip most of the day, correct?
Yes.
You've been out at bars that night, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is that yes?
Yes.
You weren't charging your phone. We saw the video. You weren't charging your phone at the bar.
Right.
So when you got home, clearly put your phone on a charger, didn't you?
But I did not.
So if your kids needed to get a hold of you, why would the phone being in your bed be any assistance to you instead of just on the charger at the nightstand?
That's just what I've always done. I just keep it in my bed. My wife does the same thing.
So now you've got 2 phones in the bed.
Yes.
Okay. And your glasses,
Yes.
right between the 2 of you.
Yes.
Got it. Your phone have a ringer on it?
It does.
Ever thought about maybe turning the ringer on just in case the kids need to get a hold of you?
Sometimes it's on vibrate. Sometimes it's on ring. It depends.
Yeah. Depends on you. You just put it on ringer. Wouldn't that make more sense to go to bed, put it on ringer?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
All I can answer is that I sleep with my phone in my bed. That's just what I do.
And you know what I'm about to ask you. This is why you're saying you sleep with the phone in the bed, correct?
All
I
right,
s-
so that's sustained, that's stricken. Poor Mr. Jackson.
All right. What else is in the bed with you? Your keys, your wallet, any other pocket items?
No.
Just the phone and your glasses
Yes.
and Nicole's phone,
Yes.
right between the two of you.
Usually, yes.
What about that night?
Yes.
Sir, did you make any phone calls after you went to bed between the hours of 1:45 a.m. and 6:30 a.m.?
Yes.
Who did you call?
I inadvertently called Brian Higgins.
What time?
I don't recall the exact time. After 2.
2:22 and 35 seconds. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Did you speak to Brian Higgins at any point between 1:45 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. that night?
No.
You say you inadvertently called him at 2:22 in the morning.
Yes.
How did you inadvertently call him?
Well, I don't know because it was inadvertent.
So I have to explain that.
Well, it's kind of like a butt dial.
Kind of like a butt dial. All right. How long have you used an iPhone?
A long time.
As a matter of fact, you've been asked this question before, haven't you?
Yes.
Hence my question. You knew what I was going to ask you.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll withdraw it. You indicated previously at a different hearing in June of 2023 that you were, quote, hanging out with your wife and you must have butt dialed Mr. Higgins, correct?
Yes.
At 2:22 and 35 seconds on January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
You were asked how that could have happened, much like I just asked how that could have happened, right?
Yes.
And in that hearing, you said, quote, I'm not totally sure. Similar to what you just said here.
Yes.
And here you added that it could have been a butt dial.
Yes.
You were then called back to that same hearing, but at a different date, an ongoing hearing, right?
Yes.
That was in July of 2023, correct?
Yes.
You then changed your testimony and said, and I don't mean to be indelicate, but your testimony was then that you were in an intimate situation, put it that way, with Nicole at the time. And that's how you butt dialed Brian Higgins, correct?
I don't believe I said that's how I butt dialed Brian Higgins.
That's the time.
I think I said there was a time frame that was close.
Okay.
So I didn't say that, no.
What you said was you were in an intimate situation with Nicole at the time that the butt dial occurred, correct?
I'm not sure if you have something you can read me or show me.
Is it your testimony, let me just ask, is it
Sure.
your testimony that you and your wife were in the middle of some sort of sexual or intimate situation, and that's what caused you to butt dial the phone at that time at 2:22 a.m.?
Objection.
System.
I'd like to show you an exhibit briefly. Oh, sorry. They have just one more.
Yes.
May I approach you? sir?
Yes.
I'm not gonna mark this. Just watch. Sir, I just want to find out if this refreshes your recollection. Look at lines 11 through 13. And then let me know when you're prepared.
Yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that you indicated at the other hearing
Just,
that,
just the first part of that first. Does that refresh your recollection?
It does.
Okay, now you
thank you, Your Honor. Isn't it true that at the other hearing, you indicated that at or around the 2:22 timeframe, you and your wife were in bed together in an intimate situation?
Yes, around that time, I think it reads.
May I approach briefly, Your Honor?
Yes.
Well, with the court's permission, let me ask a couple of questions. Do you recall every call that you made between, say, 1:45 a.m. and the next couple of days? Do you remember every single one of those calls?
No.
Do you think it would refresh your recollection to look at a log of those calls during that time frame, if we're going to discuss those?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll show it to him. May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
That's 2 pages worth of documents. If it refreshes your recollection as we walk through this with the court's permission, let me know if you need to refer to that.
Right. I'm not going to be able to read it right now. I'll do it as you ask.
Correct, yeah. No, you don't need to read it right now. Just wanted to have it in front of you. By the way, you've seen these records before, correct? At the other hearing proceeding?
I've seen some records before, yes. I don't know if these exact records or not.
All right, and you've acknowledged that at least the first page, these are your phone records for the number ending 0888, correct?
Yes.
And these are call records from January 29th
Yes.
at 2:22 and 35 seconds in the morning, correct?
Yes.
Whose number ends in 5421?
According to this, it's Brian Higgins.
The call at 2:22 and 35 seconds appears to be 1 second in length. And that's from you to him, correct?
It says 1 second. I don't.
That would be the call, the initial call from you to him, the one that you claim is a butt dial. Is that right?
Yes.
Did that call roll to voicemail? And then you immediately hung up?
No, I don't recall if it. I don't know.
So according to you, it was a butt dial that went to his phone that somehow lasted 1 second.
Right.
Okay. Then there's a second call. If you look at the second line down, there's a second call at 2:22 and 52 seconds, 17 seconds later, correct?
Yes.
That call is actually from Brian Higgins to you, isn't it?
Yes.
And that call doesn't last 1 second. That call lasts 22 seconds, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, you know how long 22 seconds is.
What's that?
You know how long 22 seconds lasts.
Yes.
So according to your phone records, you placed a call to him, and then 17 seconds later, he returned a call to you that lasted 22 seconds, correct?
That's what the records reflect. Yes.
When you woke up in the morning, you obviously checked your phone, did you not?
I don't know if I did.
Are you telling this jury that the call that came into your phone was a missed call, or did you answer it?
I did not answer it.
So it would have been a missed call.
I just know I didn't answer the call.
So it would have been a missed call.
Well, I don't
by
know.
definition.
I don't know that to be a fact. I just know I didn't answer the phone call.
Okay.
I missed the call. Yes.
That's what I mean.
Right.
You missed the call.
Right.
It did something on your phone and you just didn't answer it. What do you mean?
Right.
And again, you're using an iPhone.
Yes,
If you butt dialed Brian Higgins and he called you back and you didn't answer, you would have a very bright red missed call in your call log, correct?
Objection.
Do you know that?
I don't know that.
Have you ever missed a call on your iPhone before?
Yes,
And when you go to your call logs, it says missed call in red, correct? After your wife calls you, your kids call you.
I don't think I've ever noticed that it's in red, and so no, I don't know that to be true.
You're certainly alerted to the fact that it's a missed call, that you missed a call, correct?
If I were to go back and look at my incoming calls, it would probably say missed call, yes.
And of course, if we asked you to show us your phone and show that that was a missed call, you couldn't do that because you've gotten rid of that phone, correct?
Objection.
Did you tell anyone in law enforcement that next day that oddly Brian Higgins was calling you at 2:22 a.m. and you missed a call?
No, I wasn't aware of that call.
If a call went to voicemail on your phone, you would get that voicemail, correct? You get notice of it.
If I checked my voicemails and there was a voicemail, I would get it, yes.
That's my question. Did you get a voicemail from Brian Higgins?
No,
Which means he didn't leave a voicemail.
right.
Which would suggest that you answered the call, correct?
Objection.
Let's talk for a second about this butt dial. You went to bed and you closed and your phone was, you closed and locked your phone, correct?
Yes,
I don't want you to tell me what the passcode is, Mr. Albert, that's important. I want to make sure you understand. I'm not asking you to tell me what the passcode is, but at the time, was your passcode a 4-digit or 6-digit passcode?
4, I believe.
And that locks the phone when it's not in use, correct?
The phone will lock after it's not used for a while. I don't know the exact timing of it.
You're exactly right, Mr. Albert. I said it backward. The
Right.
phone automatically locks. You have to use the 4-digit passcode to unlock it, correct?
Well, no, I also have face recognition too, so it can open that way without any passcode.
We'll get to that in a second. The phone locks when it's not in use, correct?
Yes,
And then to make a call, once you open the phone, either through facial recognition or through the passcode, then you have to tap on the phone app in order to open up the phone app, correct?
yes, I believe so.
Once you open up that phone app, there are only 3 ways that you can initiate a phone call. Favorites, recents, and contacts, correct?
I don't know that.
If you tap on a contact, that opens up the contact page or the contact app, right? You know that.
Yes,
It's where all your contacts are.
yes,
They're alphabetized.
yes,
You have to either scroll through or do a search and type in the name of the person you're looking for.
right.
You didn't do that, did you?
No,
If you tap favorites, if you have favorites listed, there's a list of favorites. You have to scroll through and tap the one that you want to call, correct?
I think so. Yes, I'm not totally aware of that, but
And if you tap on recents, those are the recent calls that you've had, you've either received or made. And of course, you have to tap on the contact in the recents list that you want to call, right?
yes,
And then, of course, you would have to tap again to end whatever call you initiate, right?
yes,
I mean, you don't just say goodbye. You got to say goodbye and hang up. You got to tap it to hang it up.
right.
So would you agree, from a closed and locked phone, there is no physical mechanism by which a person can hit one button and make a phone call?
Objection.
Are you saying that from your closed and locked phone, you inadvertently tapped your phone one time and that initiated a butt dial to Brian Higgins?
Objection.
Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Tell me what you're saying.
I
How did you butt dial Brian Higgins?
I don't know.
2:22 in the morning.
I don't know that the phone was locked. I could have been looking through my phone. I butt dial people often and make inadvertent calls. I could have hit a last call from him by accident, thus calling his phone.
So you were actually awake and on your phone at the time.
I was awake and I could have been looking at my phone.
So, Mr. Albert, how'd you miss the call 17 seconds later?
Well, my wife was in the room with me and we were hanging out and I never got the second call from him. So I'm not sure what time he called. I'm not sure what I was doing at that second, but I don't know.
But it didn't go to voicemail.
Well, I didn't get a voicemail from him. No.
So it didn't go to voicemail.
Well, I don't know that don't know that it didn't go to voicemail. I just know that I didn't receive a voicemail from him.
So if you, okay.
I mean, we're all guessing here, but I mean, he could have called voicemail.
We're not all guessing.
Well,
here.
you are, because you don't know if he left a voicemail or didn't, or at least got voicemail and then hung up the phone.
I think one of us is trying to guess.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. You know what? I want to see counsel sidebar for just a second, please.
Are you now saying that your phone was open and unlocked at 2:22 a.m.?
I'm saying it could have been.
Are you saying that it was?
I don't know.
Mr. Albert, you were the only person that was there with your phone. Was the phone unlocked and did you make a call?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
Sure, I don't know.
And 17 seconds later, again, presuming you're the only person there with the phone, did you answer that call?
I did not.
You would agree that in order to answer a call, you can't just look at your phone to answer it. It has to be swiped physically, correct?
I think you can hit, I think it comes up green or red for the phone call, whether it's locked or not, and you can hit green.
Right, but you have to hit a button.
Yes,
Did you hit a button to answer a call
I
from
d-
Brian Higgins?
I don't.
I don't mean to talk over you. Please let me finish my question. Did you hit a button to answer a phone call from Brian Higgins at 2:22 and 52 seconds in the morning?
Not that I know of.
You do know that that phone will not answer on its own, correct?
Yes.
And simply touching your butt will not answer that phone. It has to be swiped.
No, I don't think it has to be swiped.
You'd agree that a 22-second call from Brian Higgins had to have been answered by you. Isn't that right?
Objection.
Do you agree with that?
No,
Did Nicole, who else was in the room?
just myself and my wife.
And Chloe.
Yes. But Chloe's not a human, so it was myself and my wife.
By process of elimination, Nicole didn't answer that call, did she?
No,
Chloe, the non-human, didn't answer that call, did she?
no.
So who had to have answered the call, sir?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
I don't remember answering that call. Could have hit the phone by accident, causing it to answer.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on from this, Mr. Chair.
Your Honor, if I could have one or two more questions.
One more question.
Now your testimony is you could have answered the call, correct?
No, my testimony is that I don't know. You're asking me how it could have answered, and I'm trying to answer your question.
At a prior hearing in June of 2022, you were asked this exact question and you answered, quote, "Yeah, it's only possible that it's me," end quote, correct?
I don't recall answering that way, but I'm not sure.
And you were also asked, after being confronted with these records, quote,
Objection.
"I guess I could have talked to him," meaning Mr. Higgins, correct?
I'll
I don't-
allow this, and this is-
I don't recall saying that, no.
Let's move on.
Did you have any conversation with Brian Higgins about a 2:22 a.m. phone call?
That next morning, while everything was going on, I mentioned to Brian that I may have butt dialed you last night. Sorry about that.
Did the two of you agree that you were going to both say those calls were butt dials in order to cover up those calls?
Objection.
You can answer that.
We did not say that.
But let's be clear, since then and now, you've gotten rid of your phone, correct?
I upgraded my phone, yes.
And since then and now, Brian Higgins has gotten rid of his phone. You're aware of that as well.
Yes,
By the way, you indicated that you were awakened in the morning by Jen McCabe about 6:30, correct?
yes,
And when you woke up, you said you grabbed your phone to make a call. Is that right?
no,
Isn't it true that you grabbed your phone and made a call at 7:20 in the morning?
yes. But that's not when I was awoken by my sister-in-law.
Sorry, that wasn't my question. After you were awake and you're up, you
Right,
started making calls.
right.
My question is, what was the first call you made at 7:20?
Can I look at this?
If that refreshes your recollection with the court's permission.
Yes.
At 7:20, I called Brian Higgins.
Mr. Albert, you have 6 siblings and 5 kids, right?
Yes,
You have in-laws, cousins, huge family, correct?
yes,
But on the morning you find out that John O'Keefe is laying dead or dying on your lawn, the first call you made at 7:20 was to Brian Higgins. Is that right?
yes,
The same person you had a call with, or at least the logs indicate you had a call with at 2:22 in the morning, correct?
yes.
During that 7:20 a.m. call, did you two discuss the 2:22 a.m. calls?
No.
Thought you just said that you told him, oh, I think I may have butt dialed.
Yeah, that was later in the morning when he came to the house.
Not on that 7:20 a.m. call.
No.
What did you talk about on that 7:20 a.m. call?
I informed him of what was going on at my house. We were out the night before, and I thought it was important for him to know what had happened.
Mr. Albert, I have a couple of more questions about the phones or the phone usage that morning and the day, throughout the day. You called Brian Higgins at 7:20 a.m. for 1 minute and 56 seconds, correct?
Yes,
Brian Higgins called you at 7:30 for 5 minutes and 47 seconds.
yes,
You called Brian Higgins at 7:57 a.m. Spoke for 12 minutes and 33 seconds.
yes,
You then called your brother, Kevin Albert, at 9:40 a.m. and spoke for 1 minute and 5 seconds.
yes,
Chief Berkowitz called you at 9:50 a.m. and left a voicemail. Is that right?
he didn't leave me a voicemail, but I think he called me.
You called Chief Berkowitz back at 9:54, 4 minutes later, and spoke for 4 minutes and 40 seconds, right?
Yes,
You called Jim McCabe at 11:30 a.m. Is that right?
yes,
And Jim McCabe called you back at 12:20 p.m. You spoke for 7 minutes and 52 seconds.
yes,
You called Kevin Albert again at 2:01 in the afternoon and spoke for 8 minutes.
yes,
You called Kevin Albert at 6:45. I'm sorry. You called Brian Higgins at 3:24 p.m. and spoke for 6 minutes and 5 seconds. Is that right? And if it refreshes your recollection, there's a second page, second log. You'll turn your attention to the 3:24 p.m. time frame.
trying to find it.
Take your time.
What time are you referring to?
3:24 p.m.
I see it, yes,
And there's a second call. You call Brian Higgins at 6:12 p.m. and speak for 1 minute and 7 seconds, right?
yes,
And then the third one on that page, you called Brian Higgins at 6:35 p.m. Spoke for 10 minutes and 12 seconds, correct?
yes,
Turning back to your call logs, you called Kevin Albert at 6:45 on the next on that same day. Spoke for about 16 minutes.
yes,
Then on the next day, January 30th, you called Chief Berkowitz and spoke for 1 minute and 6 seconds.
yes,
And the following day, you spoke with Jen McCabe, who called you at 8:04 p.m., correct?
yes,
And finally, Chief Berkowitz called you at 1:48 p.m. on February 1st, right?
yes,
3 days later, you spoke again to Brian Higgins at 8:48 a.m. Is that right?
yes,
The subject of these calls, Mr. Albert, were all about the fact that John O'Keefe was found dying on your yard, on your lawn, on January 29th, 2022. Isn't that right?
I don't know the subject of all these calls, no.
You had to have been talking about that event.
Of course, it was a horrible situation that was going on. Everybody was distraught, and there were a lot of phone calls. This call log doesn't encompass all the phone calls.
No, it doesn't.
There are a lot of phone calls being made to a lot of people because of this horrible situation.
And the point is, Mr. Albert, those many calls that you just described, especially as they pertain to Brian Higgins, Jim McCabe, Kenny Berkowitz, your brother Kevin Albert, were those many calls an effort to get stories straight at the time?
No, absolutely not.
Were those many calls an effort?
I'm going to interrupt you, Jared. We're going to send the jury out. Chris, actually, why don't we take the lunch? I'll see counsel at 5.
Court, all right, please.